What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you are listening to After School Matters. And this is going to be something super dope that we're going to be doing all day today. We have a live stream going on, a charity event. It's going to be super sick. It's going to be dope. We have amazing guests on, all the way from the Chicago Cubs top prospects to Kevin Lapka from 670 The Score, my good friend, Carolina Teague, who does Spurs radio and amazing things in San Antonio and Texas. And we have many other guests as well. Stephen Garner from Nuts and Bolts, and an amazing reporter who covers not only the WNBA but also any type of basketball that you could even think of. This man covers it. He's an amazing friend that I met throughout the Chicago Sky organization this year. I appreciate all you guys being here right here down below, or you could check it on the chat if you're on Facebook. This is the link to After School Matters donations. It's an amazing cause in Chicago that honestly just gives kids a better chance to not only be themselves, but to just have a safe space to be in. And it's really important to me to kind of keep that going. I've seen in recent years it kind of not taking a step back, but a lot of people are starting to focus on other things, and a lot of people are just kind of just kind of sweeping it under the rug. And I think that's something to where the idea of After School Matters is it's continuing to grow, and it's going to be something that generationally is going to change not only the youth but potentially generations to come. And I think that's one of the most important things of it right now. And today's episode is going to be a lot different. We're not only just going to be talking about just sports, we're going to be talking about everything, every single thing we know. And it's going to be super exciting, man. I'm super excited about this. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to be talking about things that are far more than just sports, far more than just basketball. We're going to be talking about stuff that, goes on throughout the city, our relationships with people, and how that's helped grow us into who we are today. And it's something near dear to my heart that I feel like everybody can relate to, that is from the city and is a part of something bigger than themselves. And I think that's going to be super exciting. I think this is something that I've been looking forward to for a very long time. And I'm really excited to kind of see it just blow up and really just be what we expect it to be. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely going to be different. It's definitely going to be different. It's definitely going to be something we've never done before. But it's going to be fun. So we're going to break down the show. First off, we're going to start off. We got to get some sports in there. We got to throw them in there. It's definitely something right now to where, I look at what the Chicago Cubs are doing, and I look at the way they're moving and how they want to move moving forward. And it's just super exciting. It's super exciting to see this team and where they want to be and how they want to move. And I think it means everything right now. The Chicago Cubs, and we're going to get into it in a little bit later, and we're going to be talking about the Chicago White Sox as well. So definitely stay tuned if you haven't done that already. But it's going to be a lot of fun to really see where this team kind of moves forward in the next couple years. And we do have interviews with not only James Triantos and Liam Spence, who are amazing individuals. They're the kindest people I've ever met. But we do have Brennen Davis as well. Now, the problem with Brennen Davis, and I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, we do have two quotes from Brennen Davis after we talked to him about After School Matters and what it's like for him growing up. But the problem is, and you know what? It's not even a problem. Brennan got called back to Iowa. Obviously, he had somewhat of a season-ending back surgery at the beginning of the year. It was super unfortunate, and Brennan just got called back this week, so unfortunately he couldn't make the call. But in his first game back, he hits a home run. So shout out Brennan. Him and I have been friends for quite some time now, and I support everything that man does, and he works his tail off. That man does stuff that he puts in the work that nobody sees, and that's one of the biggest things about Brennan. So we do have two quotes here from Brennan. Just kind of talking about After School Matters and kind of talking about what baseball has been for him. Brennan sat here and he said, "I think it was a huge part of my childhood. From a young age, I always had sports to look forward to, and those bonds that you create with your grinding with your guys. Pardon me. The strongest there are. I also have some of my best memories from when I was little and how much fun I had on these teams, and some of those guys are still my closest friends to this day." And I think that kind of speaks on, a lot to what we're doing, and a lot to what in this city specifically you need in order to succeed. I think that's something that really doesn't get talked about enough, is really growing relationships to help you be better later on in life. I have a good friend. He's from the All Sports All Plays Network, Rob Scott. That man can connect you with anybody in this world, and I think that's one of the most important things right now. When you look at someone like that, is to build relationships with people. And Rob Scott could hook up anybody he wanted with it, just damn near anything. And I think that's super important. And I know I'm beating a dead horse when I say that, but a lot of people, when they don't have opportunities as kids to really meet good people, to really meet people who are going to be able to support them and be in favor of them and care about their well-being when at such a young age. It's so important because you grow up in these gang heavy neighborhoods or these low income neighborhoods, and everybody's fighting just to make it out and just to put a meal on the table. And one of the problems with that is you're not having the greatest support group, and the people who are helping you out and supporting you might not be leading you to the greatest of paths. So that's where After School Matters comes in. They bring you positive people, they bring you good people to surround you with, and just give everybody an equal opportunity to succeed and really just be a part of that. And we asked Brennen how he felt about the After School Matters program, and Brennen had this to say. He said, I think we should do everything in our power to help organizations like this thrive. When kids have something like sports and a team to introduce structure into their lives and teaches the invaluable life skills that they'll have for a lifetime. And I think that's one of the most important things right there is, when we're speaking on that and we're having these conversations with Brennen, and him and I kind of talked about it on the phone for a little bit. About what it means for him and his character and how he's continued to grow. I think it's something that you can't teach. It's something that is always going to be, one of those conversations to where, you have to see it. You have to see it to believe it. And having these kids be able to just be themselves and really just be who we want them to be. And that being, just super supportive and super positive to everything everybody does. It's something right now that it's beautiful to see that. So, we do have a couple interviews. I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me talk. Obviously we're going to get right into it. We have an interview with James Triantos and Liam Spence that I'm super excited about. I think you guys are going to love it. We're going to pull that up right here, right now for everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun. We sat with them for about 15 minutes. Then we're going to have Kevin Lapka. Obviously, we just had Brennen Davis on. If you haven't seen that already, he did give 2 quotes. It was really unfortunate timing that he couldn't be here today in person. But, shout out Brennen, man. The Iowa Cubs are going to go into the playoffs, and maybe we'll run up the board and we'll see what happens. Iowa Cubs. I want to, for anybody tuning in, I want to get that out there. But with that being said, let's get right into it. We're going to share our screen really quickly to get Liam Spence and everybody else in here. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be super exciting, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's definitely going to be a ride for sure. So here's our interview with both Chicago Cubs, James Triantos and Liam Spence. It's going to be a great time. Hey, man. I just heard what y'all told me. I just heard from everybody that nobody can hear the audio. I truly apologize. We are going to get this right. Damian, we appreciate you. Kevin Lapka, we appreciate you. That was our interviews with James Triantos and Liam Spence. Obviously, it is not anywhere near where I want it to be or how we want to view it, but we are going to get that right. We are going to get this corrected. It's definitely something where it's really a conversation right now to where with Liam Spence and James Triantos, basically to summarize that up before we get into it, we're basically just talking about everything going out through the world, man. And it's really something to where, we're going to try and do this frequently. We're going to try to do this as much as we can. I do truly apologize for that. So while we have that moment's break, while we have this conversation right now, trying to figure it out, Jay Ness, if you're in here, I'm about to call you. We're going to figure out how we can get the audio for that, but we will be right back. Give us at least 5 minutes. I promise you this will not be taking long. Yes, super excited to be having him on back. Liam Spence, a Tennessee Volunteer that helped build that culture everybody knows and loves to this day. And he's bringing on a good friend of his, and honestly is one of my favorite players in the Chicago Cubs pipeline right now, a kid I've watched since high school. We're going to have Liam Spence and James Triantos joining the show today. Guys, how are we feeling today?
What up, Mike? Thanks for having us. I can't
And
hear you anymore.
we were sitting here, Liam. I was sitting here and I was talking to Jim Cross the other day, and we were talking about Evan Russell. We were talking about Drew Gilbert. We were talking about everybody at Tennessee, and I feel like that was a perfect conversation. And I'm trying to get Jim on the show today, but you know how busy of a man Jim is. He's got a lot going on. He's got to get in that gym at least 5 times a day.
That's
Um,
right.
but we were talking about kind of the culture that Tennessee was really just building, and what that's like, not only just on the field but afterwards. You and I talked about it when you were on the pod just a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a couple months ago. It feels like some time now. But we were talking about how those relationships last forever, and today obviously we're doing a show with After School Matters. Can you kind of talk about your experiences of how playing ball has led to friendships and just relationships with people that kind of live on forever?
Right. Well, I mean, if I didn't play baseball, I wouldn't be in America right now, and I wouldn't have met a lot of the people a lot of everybody that I've met. I wouldn't have met them also. Baseball's given me the chance to go to Japan and like all over America and experience different types of cultures and just meet so many new people that have like brought me into their lives and that mean a lot to me.
For sure. And I know James is one of those guys. You were kind of gawking over him the last time we had a podcast on together,
Right.
talking about how much you love his game. But James, for you, being able to meet as many people as you have and really just build those relationships with not just players but coaches, what has that meant to you in your childhood years?
I mean, I think that's really what baseball is all about. People come from completely different cultures to play the same game and work together to win a ball game. It's all about competing, and that's like my favorite thing in the world to do. So to be able to have you know your teammates, not only like your best friends too, to be able to compete against people every single day is one of the greatest things you can possibly do. So, I mean, I love it. And, our relationships only grow stronger every single day, and you only meet more and more new people. So it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Without a doubt, man. And James, I do want to ask you because, like I said, I did geek over you, man, ever since the Cubs drafted you. And it's been a big year. It's been a big year. I remember, when the pipeline, quote unquote, on MLB.com came out and you were outside of the top 20 at the beginning of the year. Right now, sitting in that top 10, how is, and this is more so of like of a relationship kind of conversation. How has it really been for you handling that and understanding that there's all this pressure now, but you have individuals like Liam and a bunch of others throughout the organization that kind of just, hold you down and still just, focusing on that day-to-day work?
hmm I mean, rankings are rankings. They're
Right.
always going to be there. But I think it's more about just being ready to go every single day, like ready to help your team in whatever way you can. Showing up to the field, like just ready to go, like doing my job, making sure I'm getting it done right. So I think that's the most important thing.
For sure. And Liam, we kind of sat here and we talked about, what it meant for you playing in Tennessee and what that culture really instilled. And when you look in somewhere, a place like Chicago, it's a really big market to have to be able to handle. And that's a conversation of not just as a player. And, some people are born into it. I was born into it. It's one of these conversations where, there's so many different ways your life can go as, either a white male, a black male, Hispanic, whatever it may be, boy, girl. It's really just a kind of a throw a dart on a board and hope you land somewhere positive kind of situation. And right now, being able to be in Chicago and to be an influence. And I love and appreciate you guys for even being on here today. It means the world to not only me, but to so many other people. From top to bottom of After School Matters, we appreciate it. And right now, to be able to do this already, how excited are you to be able to give back to the community and really just kind of be more than baseball?
Right. Absolutely. I'm super excited because the community is the reason why I'm able to be able to play baseball. Like they're the people that come to the games and support us. And I know the Chicago fans, they're more passionate than anybody. Kind of like in Tennessee, like those fans that you just love to play for, you love to compete for and do anything you can for them because you know that they're just so bought into like the program and passionate about it, but also giving back to the community. Like growing up, everybody above me was giving back to me and helping me. So it just feels like the only thing to do now is give back to the community and help those other kids that are in the same position that I was in achieve and grow into the players or the people that they want to be.
Without a doubt. And James, it's really unfortunate because Liam kind of put our transition to where I was going to throw it at you. I was going to throw it at you a little bit later, but Liam set it up perfectly. For you growing up, I want to talk to you, man. Not a lot of people know who was your favorite team growing up, who's one of your favorite athletes growing up. And it's okay. If you sit here right now, bro, and you tell me it's the Chicago White Sox, we will still
No.
continue this conversation. But I'm just curious, favorite players, favorite athletes, who you got in mind?
Favorite team growing up was definitely the Phillies.
I can respect it. I can respect it.
And I'm a big Trout guy, and I love Kyle Schwarber.
Man, you're just giving all the good answers today. I can't be mad at any of it. I can't be mad at anything. We love Schwarbs over here. We still got mad love, and him ending up in Philly, I bet that's a dream come true for you.
Yeah.
But looking at that, and Liam, this is a question for you too. When you have these conversations right now, say your favorite player is a Mike Trout, but how much are you trying to? And this is for me too. It's a conversation to where I would try to be like my favorite players. I remember trying to be like Ken Griffey Jr. It didn't go so well, in case you guys were wondering. But it's a conversation to where you try to imitate that and duplicate it. If for you guys, does that go into your favorite players, or do you watch other people's games as well that kind of relate more to what you try to do?
What's your answer?
I'd say that you always want to be your own player, but that can come from many different things. Like you can learn different things from different people, and
Right.
just it's kind of like that's what hitting is, just taking what you want or taking what you like and just discarding the rest. So I think that you can find a way to still be yourself, but have some of other players in you. Like approach wise, just picking up stuff from what other players are thinking, asking questions, stuff like that is like you can mimic other people, but you still have to end up. It's your approach. It's your game to play. So you can't necessarily just try and beat someone else.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%. I was even telling Liam, I remember we were talking about, I'm a big Mike Trout guy too, but James, for you not knowing, I'm 5'8", bro. Like, I understand I'm not pimping a baseball 500 feet on the regular. So guys I would watch is Billy Hamilton. Guys like that who, I'm better at rounding the bases. I'm better at just playing defense and really doing my thing. And, when everybody sits around a room and everybody's talking, oh, I watch Frank Thomas, I watch Ken Griffey, I watch Shohei, I watch Mike Trout. Then there's me just chilling in the back like, yo, let me tell y'all a little something about Billy Hamilton. Like, let me break this down for everybody. But I think that's the beauty of the game. And that's a conversation to where, everybody has these personalities and everybody has this different ideal of, how you view a player. And I think you said it perfectly, and I've talked to Liam about it before. Guys like Kyle, they excite me, bro. They make me so excited. And I think, even Liam can attest to it. Evan Russell is one of those guys too. They might play catcher in college, but I wouldn't put Evan Russell in a box of where he can play. I think he can do so much. And Kyle turned into this DH left fielder that, is playing all-star baseball. And that's a conversation right now to where, I think baseball really does put you in that box of understanding like, hey, we can do so many different things outside of just this one specific position. And that's kind of what we were doing today and having that conversation of that's just life. I think right now you get put in this spot in Chicago and there's so many different realms of what you could end up doing. And some are good, some are bad, and some are kind of like in between. But, it's a conversation to where, we're not going to put anybody into a box. So Liam, for you especially too, we've had this conversation about, playing short, playing second. How important is it to you, like we talked about before, about just being so diverse in what you do and being able to just adapt to any situation?
Yeah, I mean, it makes you more valuable as a player if you can play 6 positions on the field. You can be that guy to like rotate around, and when other people need a break, you're there to like fill in and help them out. And it's the biggest reason why I was able to get in the lineup a freshman year of college and stick with it. So just being able to be defense, because my favorite player was Derek Jeter growing up, and so I wanted to be a shortstop. But it's a pretty position, so you got to understand to be able to play every other spot around it, and it's fun. It's nice to mix it up as well. So and it helps your team, so it's a win-win.
100%. You kind of set it up. Liam, I apologize to you because I didn't want to do this to you, but I'm checking out Team USA for the World Baseball Classic this year, and it just got finalized for at least the starters. At least the starters we're looking at. We really don't know what the pitchers are looking at too far, but Liam, have you gotten a chance to kind of see how that's going and to kind of see what's about to happen to the rest of the world come next spring?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen on Instagram and Twitter like whoever's just committed to play, and the team does look pretty good. It's a pretty powerhouse team, and I'm not sure what the Australia team looks like yet, but I think that they're going to be in it to compete this year. So hopefully we see some Australia versus USA.
So, quick question though, Liam, if you get the call playing for Team Australia, what are we doing? Are we packing our bags and heading there?
Yeah, I would love to. That would come true for me.
100%. But Liam, we'd rather have you here, bro. We know we'd rather have you on Team USA. But James, for you, I know you guys are super busy. You got a lot of things to do today. I won't keep you too much longer. But there's a lot of talk right now, and we just had Brennen Davis on here not too long ago, and we're gonna have Cole on later. For you right now, really just looking forward to spring training next year. And Liam, this is for you too. How eager are you to kind of get all of these guys back together? Because I think one of the biggest things people don't realize about baseball is we look at the top 10 projections in the pipeline. We look at top 20. These guys are all in all different places of the U.S. And Brennen Davis might not personally talk to Pete Crow Armstrong just because one's in Myrtle Beach, one's in South Bend, one's in Iowa, and in the middle of Iowa. So for you guys to really get back in spring training, not only to have everybody in the pipeline that gets invited, but to have the starters and in the bigs there as well. How important is that for you guys, and how exciting is
it? It was a really good experience. I love my time in spring training. I met so many new people that I didn't I was in Arizona all last year, and I met probably 100 new people, and it was a really cool experience. You know, you're not only just like getting to practice with them, you're playing games with them too. So I'm really excited for that, just to be able to see all my friends. And I mean, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So because we're going to be there every day doing something,
Right.
so it's going to be awesome.
Right, you're at the field for so long, like you become so close with these guys, and then you don't see them for a couple of months. So it's kind of that time of the year where all your friends come back together. So I know I'm excited for it.
It's going to be a blast, man. I can't wait to see you guys continue to just do your thing. I do truly appreciate you guys coming on today. Before we get out of here, I'm sure there's one question. We had a poll before we started today's live stream of, what questions you want to ask everybody. And one of them for Brennen that I loved was, where the hell are you? Somebody wrote, where the hell are you? And it got 44 likes. And I get it. Yeah, I completely understand it. We're struggling up here right now. But right now, I saw a couple for you guys. So if you guys don't mind, Liam, biggest question for you right now on the poll, and I promise you, in off the bench probably had something to do with this, but it doesn't tell me who said it, so I'm not sure. But it does say, out of everybody in Tennessee, who are you hitting up most consistently, just chopping it up with?
It's a combination of Max Ferguson and Connor Pavoloni, I'd say. They're both very different in their perspectives of the game, but they give great insights all the time, and they're just easy to shoot around with and just message and see how it's going, because they're all going through the same thing. They know how tough it is, they know what the grind's like, and sometimes you just need to be able to take your focus away from baseball and think about other things in life.
100%. Now, James, I don't like this question for you. I feel like no matter what, people are gonna love you or people are gonna hate you. Deep dish or thin crust? What are we thinking right now on the pizza aspect? How are we feeling about it? I don't know if you've ever had Chicago pizza, but there's a James. Just tread carefully, brother, please.
I've never had Chicago pizza before, actually.
That's an amazing answer. I feel like that was even if you're lying to me right now, it's the safest
I've
answer.
been to Chicago one time, and it was in the off season last year.
It's such a safe answer. I applaud you for it, because I would have fumbled the bag. I would have said deep dish, and then everybody would have destroyed me. But guys, I truly do appreciate you coming on. James, really quick, and then Liam, can you guys plug in your Instagrams, plug in anywhere anybody can follow you? Let's run up their board.
Put it in the chat.
Oh, no. My Instagram is Liam.Spence_, but I'm sure if you looked up Liam Spence, you'd find it. And
yeah.
Same on Twitter. But,
same with James.
Yeah, if you just look up James Triantos, I'm sure my name will come up.
100%, I'm sure. And I'm sure if you put in Mike Hughes, my name will come up too. But with that being said, I do appreciate you guys coming on today, man. It's been a blast, and we can't wait to lock in again someday, man.
Awesome. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Yo, man, you guys didn't see it, but in the middle of that interview, there was a spider that came down my ceiling, and I damn near flipped this table. But in all seriousness, we are going to continue the live stream. We're going to be doing amazing things all day long like that. We have a bunch of interviews with a bunch of different people. That was James Triantos and Liam Spence, both Myrtle Beach Pelicans as of this moment. But at any point in time, they can get called up to the Chicago Cubs for a September call-up. And I'm praying for them, because these guys put in the work like nobody else. And I loved every minute of that. If you haven't been on the live stream, and you're just tuning in, we did have an interview with Brennen Davis just a few minutes ago, kind of talking about what after school matters means to him. And we also had a horrible setup. Shout out to Kevin Lapka, Damian Hernandez, and everybody else that let me know there was no audio to the original Liam Spence and James Triantos interview. It was embarrassing. I should be fired. And honestly, if you're still listening to this, I applaud you, because I'm awful for that. But I do truly apologize for that in all seriousness. We did originally have a scheduled live to play for you guys with Kevin Lapka, but so graciously, so effortlessly, this man came on. Kevin Lapka said, "Hey, I could be home in 5 minutes." That's how dedicated this man is. I don't know how fast. I don't know where he was coming from. 670s downtown. The fact that he got all the way to where I know he lives in a span of 5 minutes, it blew my mind. And honestly, I don't think it was safe enough to be having this conversation right now on a charity kids special. Kevin, we're bringing you on the show right now. I got questions, brother. What mile per hour were you going in that school zone, bro?
I'm going 150 down Western past Lane Tech. I'm getting a $300 speeding ticket. No,
I know
was
that.
just
I know that camera in front of Lane got you too. I
oh
know
they
it did.
and it wouldn't be the first time, Mike. It would not
It
be the
just
first
got
time.
you.
That camera has nabbed me many a times. Now I work from home today, and I was running a couple shows, so I went to a cafe to get a little smoothie and do some extra work. And Mike's like, I'm following a stream, and I'm like, Mike, we got no audio. We got to figure this out. And then I was like,
Dude.
you know what? Let's just do it live. We had a pre-recorded segment, but it's always fun to do it live and interact with the people live. So I was like, if I can be home and do it live, might as well, right?
100%, bro. And again, everybody, I do apologize, dude. You know what hurt the most?
Good.
We had like 20 viewers on ASAP like tuned in, and then it was just like I was watching it on the stream, and it was like, and I was like, the interview just started, baby. I was like,
I know.
What are we talking about here? And hopefully they come back at some point. But I'm sure Mike Hughes' name is getting slandered all throughout the city right now and all throughout the nation. But that's fine. It's not the first time. It's not the first time that's happened, and it won't be the last. It's a beautiful day. But Kevin, to kind of tie into that, me and you had that conversation. Lane Tech. We sat there. We talked about rolling my eyes at the state champs, whatever. We all get picked a high school to go to, and I didn't get that luxury. I was like 50 points off the entry test or whatever it was. And I believe like 20 of those points were taken off just because of where I live. And that makes no sense. But Kevin, we're gonna get right into it, man. And we had it. Honest to God, we had one of the greatest conversations the other day, kind of just talking about that. And right now, we're having this conversation. We're really sitting here and really breaking down what it's like growing up in Chicago and how important, having these experiences, and I called it a melting pot, and I think I've kind of just consistently been calling it that. Being able to meet all walks of life from all different parts of this world in one city. What was that like for you growing up, and how have those experiences really helped shape who you are in the industry today?
Dude, that honestly it meant everything to me, honestly. So I went to Ohio State, as you can see, repping it. Big game tomorrow against the Fighting Irish, big game, Ohio State. Anyway, I went there, and you're in the middle of Ohio, and it's not a diverse campus, right? So I get there, and it's sort of a culture shock for me. And it made me realize how grateful I was to grow up in a city like Chicago, where you're around different walks of life, you're around different people, and you really understand and you come to terms with the fact that though having those experiences, meeting those people, being in that melting pot shapes you as a person more than you can ever imagine. And people always talk about, what is their identity and what is my identity? And for me, when I think about my identity and who I am and all that, like I think about Chicago first, right? And and so do you. Look at the background of your Zoom screen right now. Like you're all Chicago. We're both. I think your sweatshirt even said. I think that's the new Sky sweatshirt you got, right?
Come on, man. Hey, if you haven't already, not to cut you off, Kev, but if you haven't already copped this hoodie, come on, baby.
That's so sick.
We got the champ. We got the ETA. We got EST. Pardon me. We got everything up here. We got Shy on the side. The back is even sicker. Kev, we're gonna get you one, baby. We're gonna hook it up.
Dude, I'm going to purchase one. That is
hey, I'm telling you right now, we got you, Kevin.
Okay. Oh, hey, I appreciate it.
We got you, Kevin.
Mike got me, and I got you on whatever you need to. Whenever 6-7 the score gear, you want to 6-7.
Hey, Kev, can I get a job, bro?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, okay.
We're just throwing around favors everywhere.
Yeah, a sweater for a job. I think it's fair.
It's a very fair trade. But no, seriously, man, like being from Chicago, Lane Tech, very diverse school. All the CPS schools, pretty much very, very diverse. It's not just all, white people, which is, it was like 70% Caucasian population at Ohio State. So that's what I'm talking about. When I went there, I came to realize, okay, being around different walks of life, people with different backgrounds, and growing up in a neighborhood that had those elements. And when you go play basketball at the park, you'll be playing with a whole bunch of different people, and you get to learn, about how everyone's situation is different, right? And I think that's what really resonated with me, is when you are at a school like that and you play sports and you're around people in your communities and your clubs and a lot of things that After School Matters offers, right? And you get to meet these different people, you understand where they're coming from and why they want to do what they do. And, how their experiences shaped who they are, how it, creates motivation for them and causes them to work hard in their field, whether it's school, whether it's arts, whether it's sports, and you understand everyone's background. And it makes you a more well-rounded person, makes you more understanding. And then, when things go wrong and not everything within someone's life is going to be great. And if they're having a bad day, right, you understand, maybe there's a reason behind that, and you just become more understanding of everything. So I give everything to, the fact that I was lucky enough, I didn't choose to grow up here. I was lucky enough to be born here. We were lucky enough to be born, pretty much in the same neighborhood and grow up together. And I got to meet, somebody like you, right? And all the things that you have taught me, and we have completely different walks of life, completely different stories to tell, completely different journeys, and everyone's journey is different. It's like a snowflake. Not everyone is the same, and that's why I'm just incredibly fortunate to have grown up in Chicago, especially in growing up in a school system, where after school matters and other opportunities like that were present to me to give me those opportunities to learn that.
100%, bro. And I do appreciate you always saying that I teach you things, even though more times than not, I think it's you teaching me things.
No.
I do think, when we kind of talk about that, I don't even think on here or on any pod we've done together, we even talked about how we met. I always just say we've known each other since the sandbox days, and we kind of leave it at that. But, Kevin and I, we met at this thing called CCD, and what that stands for, I couldn't tell you. But basically, it's Sunday class, and that's what we do. Kevin, I don't know. You tell me what CCD stands for, but that's how we know how Kevin and I spent most of our Sundays. We were learning about God, sitting in a circle while me and Kevin were in the back talking about why Josh McCown is the greatest Bears quarterback at our 12-year-old age. But, we talked about everything, man, and our bond just grew through Sundays like that. And it was all the way from like first grade, I would say, to like 7th or 6th.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah, man. And like I said, though, and we talked about it the other day, and, I'm not going to get into here and, throw a soap opera at anybody, but, our lives between me and you definitely did change. And you definitely went through some things that you can definitely speak on later. And it's we're not going to sit here and force anybody to, but the way life moved for me after middle school, I grew up in a middle school to where now I feel like this is for everybody's case, at least in Chicago. Everybody's middle school, I feel like, was like the most ghetto, ratchetest shit when we were young. And now, like, I know my middle school teaches Spanish classes. They go to Washington, D.C. for field trips.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't go anywhere. We didn't get to go. We went to the Field Museum, and they told us we could never go back. Like, that's
oh no.
The Field Museum told us nobody's allowed back. They were like, no, it's not happening ever again. We were a different bunch. But I grew up with guys, man, from all walks of life, South Side to West Side to East Side, which I didn't even know was a side until I was like 12. I thought it was just a lake and that was it. But it's a whole group of people that live there. I'm so serious too.
Yeah.
But we're from Northwest, and we're on that divider of, you go 2 blocks this way, it's a totally different world for if you go 2 blocks that way. And being able to meet the people we did and the experiences that, I was going through in high school, in a school to where, and we talked about it a little the other night, the standards and the standards of what after school matters holds to not only themselves, but to the people within them. They don't accept just everybody in after school matters. If you are, promoting, negativity, it's definitely something to where, they will try to support you as long as they can, and they will always give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but they shut down everything from gang activity to, drug use and all these other things. And they really just try to give everybody that benefit of, you can change. And being a part of that, totally. Lane Tech was a part of that for me as well. And for me, I played for the Chicago Blues for, I don't even remember how many years, but it was the only Chicago lacrosse team at the time. It was when lacrosse was super lame and nobody cared. And
it still is, but
it still is. But like, here's the thing. Now you can get like super huge scholarships for it. When I was a kid, it was like no one cared.
Yeah, dude.
And that shit pisses me off. But it's nice to see it really come up. And just being at Lane Tech Stadium, that was where our home field was. Being able to play there, they set a standard for all of us. We're going to clean up after we leave. There will be no bottles left. There will be nothing. And I'm sure that's different for the Lane Tech players, but, as a guest in their house, they set a standard to how we were supposed to perform. And I think, that's one of the things about After School Matters that really does, set that tone. When you are here representing them, if you work for them, you need to be able to set that tone of this is how we move and this is why we're doing what we're doing and this is what we want to be. And I tell you all the time, and it's where I get into my little Kanye modes where I'm just thinking about life and thinking about the world. A positive Kanye mode, not the new Yeezy. We miss the old Kanye.
The old Ye.
But the old Ye, bring back Ye. But it's a conversation to where, and I feel like After School Matters is exactly this is, I understand I'm not going to be the one who changes the world. I'm not going to be the one that changes the city. But what I want to be is the fire to ignite that spark into the next kid, and I think Chance the Rapper said it perfectly on one of his unreleased, but because I got it like that. But it's a conversation where he says he knows he's not going to be the mayor, but his daughter will, and that's that conversation to where he said it so much better than I did. But
that's great.
It's a conversation to where you look at that and you're like, yeah, like you know where your lane is and you know who you are because of the way you moved and the way you grew up. But you are going to set the tone for the next generation. So, Kevin, in my long-winded statement, I want to ask you, when you look at, creating the next generation of youth, how is programs like After School Matters so much more beneficial to what we had growing up?
Oh, it's huge. And here's what I would say is like, it's about the next generation and promoting that, but also, what you were saying, channels and everything, believe he's going to be the mayor and you don't ever believe you're going to change the world. Like, believe that, man. Like if you give every kid the belief that they can change the world and that they can do everything great, you know what I mean, that they have on their goal list, then give them the opportunities. And that's what's great about After School Matters is like, every kid should have a dream like that. And every kid should believe that they have the ability to change the world and make a difference. And, through the donation link and through, donating a little bit of money at After School Matters today, you can help. That is like, for them, it's a thought. And, they have this idea and belief that they want to change the world and they want to make a difference in this, whether it's in this city, whether it's in another city, whether it's, anywhere around the world, if they want to go to a different country, right? Like make a difference, but they have to be given that opportunity to fulfill that. Right. And, and a lot of kids, they have the dreams. And I saw this a lot in sports. A lot of kids, man, had dreams to play college baseball, had dreams to, do this and do that. And we're capable of achieving those dreams. It's not like the kid had never picked up a baseball and wants to play for the Chicago Cubs. Like I knew kids who were really good at baseball, didn't have the resources to fulfill their dreams. And that's the most important thing about After School Matters and why donating to them and providing is really, really important. You see the link there on the screen, https://afterschoolmatters.org/give-now is you can give kids who have those dreams, who previously didn't have the resources to achieve those dreams. And, like you talk about how do we make communities great going forward? How do we make, the next generation and how do we, get this city into a great place in the future? Well, it's in the hands of the kids that are, in grammar school right now. It's in the hands of those kids that are 8 and 10 years old. They're the ones that are going to be growing up and being the ones to have a positive impact and a positive change on this community, on other communities around the country. And they just have to be given the resources and opportunities to fulfill their dreams, to understand the things that they like to do, right? Like sometimes all it takes, Mike, is, you may not even know you're interested in something. After School Matters provides you with opportunities, provides you, maybe something to do after school that you previously didn't know you were good at or that you didn't know at all. You enter into it, boom, you fall in love with it. Like there's a number of things in my life that I didn't think that I would be interested in. I was lucky enough to get an opportunity to do it. I did it, and boom, it becomes something that I really love, for the rest of my life. So like the future is in the kids' hands, man. Like, and I know that's a common phrase, but if you're not giving those kids opportunities and resources to live out their dreams and try to make a positive impact, and and you'll see the ramifications of that for the future, then the future isn't going to change the way you want it to. So that's why After School Matters is so important. And I know you kind of agree with that about it's about that next generation. It's about and what we do, right? We're here as podcasters and stuff, and there are people who look up to us. We're only early 20s, so people who look up to us, and for me at least, it's equally as important for me to like be successful in my podcast and in my job and everything as it is to like make a difference and make an impact on the people who learn from me, like all the people in college who learn from me and people who may look up to me, and give them the faith that they can do exactly what I do and achieve exactly what I achieve, because I didn't achieve anything crazy. I just was lucky enough to get opportunities to get to where I am today. To make sure those kids know that those opportunities are there for them, that's just as important for me.
And I think that you hit the nail on the head right there, is kind of just expanding your horizons and stuff. And I think the way the world was, especially when we were kids, and I'll take it back to lacrosse because, we're gonna get Kevin into watching lacrosse at some
No,
point.
we're not.
But,
No, we're not.
Yes, we are. But it's a conversation to where I wasn't in lacrosse whatsoever. I did not know what lacrosse was. I didn't care. Now everybody knew me as the kid who ran track, the kid who went to state, in track and came in third, whatever. But it's
Tell him, Mike.
Whatever. It was middle
Tell
school.
him.
It doesn't matter. But it's a conversation to where it's like, hey, you like to run, right? And it's like, this is what this is. And somebody introduced me to that. I believe his name was Owen. That's my dog to this day. I think it was Owen that introduced me. It's Owen or Charlie. And they introduced me to it, and I got in there. And one of the conversations that I feel like right now is, I was hearing a lot of stuff, and we're not going to speak on it like here. It's a very PG type show, but you're hearing all these people say certain things about you because you play lacrosse, or because I didn't personally, but because you play the tuba, because you're into acting, because you're into all this stuff. When we were kids growing up, it was that conversation of, you either dribble a basketball or you rap. And that to me was like, that's the standard of what the city kind of throws at kids. In a lot of, low income type neighborhoods, they want you to quote unquote make it out. That's always what we say in Chicago is you want to make it out of the hood one day. But nobody ever tells kids, hey, you can make $50 an hour with a high school degree doing a trade. Nobody tells kids, hey, I can go start a podcast one day because Kevin Lapka tells me that I should be a guest on a show, and then take it all the way to the WNBA and take it all the way to a sports network where we're sitting here today. And you kind of said that. You introduced me to that. And for me, it was a conversation. And I tell this story all the time. I'm not afraid to tell that story. After my dad passed away, it's kind of like, in some of your most important years, at least for me in developing as a man or as a person, is in years of high school. And I think that's really where you start to find yourself and to really separate yourself from, hey, we're just going to go hang out and play after school every day, to, hey, after school, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Chance the Rapper holds open mics all the time in Chicago, and it's a beautiful thing. If you don't know what that is, definitely check out openmics.com. Chance does amazing work there. Any kid in high school, and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, I think some middle schoolers are allowed to, but I believe it's mainly high school, are allowed to just perform in front of people. Twist is there, Chance is there, Taylor Bennett appears from time to time.
Vic Mensa,
It's a beautiful thing, bro. And I think, that's something right now that After School Matters actually provides is the acceptance of you wanting to be different. I think so many times, more so than not, if you're not a hooper, if you're not a rapper, then your next entrance is usually getting into things you shouldn't be getting into, whether that is gang violence, whether that is, the drug industry, the drug world, and everything that goes into that. And it's unfortunate, man. And that's kind of the tone. I've met guys, to this day, and I told you the other night, I won't name drop them, but I know guys who are seriously like involved in a lot of things. But they're still my brothers to this day. But unfortunately, you live in this world where you're afraid to walk down the street with them. You can't go to the movies with, let's say his name is Joe, like Joe Schmo, whatever his name is. You can't go outside with him because, you, Kevin Lapka, associates yourself with 670 The Score. You're on something called After School Matters right now. You're on all these different programs. You're a part of all these organizations, and tying yourself to that could potentially change that. So some kids feel like, there is no shot. There is no escape. There is nowhere where I can just be me and I'm forced to become this. And I understand situational issues are definitely something that you can't predict. Like you said, we didn't ask to be here. We just got blessed in being born in the city that we were born in, because I always say it's a blessing every single day, because even though as unfortunate as it can be at times, it makes boys into men in a lot of different ways if you go about it the right way. And I think, girls into women. And we've had this conversation, Kevin, and I want to throw it to you. Candace Parker, I was sitting down and we were talking and having a conversation, and she even has a commercial on it now. It's a beautiful commercial. I'm gonna phrase it in a way that isn't verbatim. But basically, the commercial is talking about women in power. and women of political status. And
yeah.
that being, all the way from, the vice president, all the way to some individuals that everybody looks at, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, everybody, everybody who has a voice, even Doja Cat, shout out Doja Cat. But it's something right now to where more times than not, 9 out of 10 women in those kind of political statuses played sports growing up, and it's very important to their development. It's very important to what makes them leaders. Candace Parker even said herself, what's made her a leader is being able to be supported by her older brothers growing up, in the burbs with Allie Quigley and company, understanding that, this is my idea, this is who I want to be, and this is how I'm going to do it. And she didn't care who doubted her, So for you, Kevin, listening to that and really having this conversation of, after school matters, providing girls and young girls a chance to just be themselves and to be something that isn't the typical standard of what it is today, the Kim Kardashians of the world, who I also respect, to an extent. But it's what I view it as is her drive and what she does. Kim Kardashian is one of the best business women in the game, but nobody sees that. Nobody sees the intelligence of that. Everybody just sees her for what she physically is. And I think that's something right now that After School Matters provides to a lot of young women, is really just allowing them to be, who they want to be, whether that be lawyers, doctors, or athletes, whatever it may be. So for you, how important is it for not only young males, but young women who really just want to be different?
Yeah, well, it's good that After School Matters provides them, with that ability to understand that, the roles are changing, right? I mean, for so long, there's been a quota and there's been a standard that, women can't hold position of power, right? And then Kamala Harris, shared that when she became the vice president, or, women are always going to be below men when it comes to STEM, or when it comes to, sports and all these things. And now you're doing great work at WNBA and trying to promote that league and show that these female athletes are just as talented as the males. It's just the way it's marketed, the way it's promoted, the style of the game. It doesn't mean that they're not any good. It just means that it's a different game. But After School Matters, they have STEM programs, communications and leadership programs, sports programs, and the arts programs. And, through all of those combined, the general thought for, young men and women is that, specifically for the women, is that you can reach that same quota. You can shatter what is currently there. I think it's called the glass ceiling. You can shatter the glass ceiling. Men don't always have to dominate everything in this world anymore. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that way. You can be the CEO of a company. You can be the smartest person in the room. And oftentimes they are. I mean, women are, I think, generally smarter than men when it comes like the average IQ of the female population is like higher than that of the male population. But it just, the world we live in still, we're still in a transition phase where it's hard for it's hard for people to understand that. And for still a lot of, young women growing up and young girls growing up, like, and their parents tell them you can be everything you want to be. But, as much as you hear it, like, you want to see it in action. Like, that's why we heard for so long, like, a woman could always be president, and then it didn't happen. And then it's like all this talk, and, you're not seeing it in action. So After School Matters is giving the opportunity for these young women to be the next generation of not just, oh, you can do this, but, oh, we're doing this now. Like, women are, in positions of leadership. Women are, breaking the glass ceiling and shattering the standards that were previously there. And, without After School Matters and other programs like that, it wouldn't be possible to make that, an actual thing, instead of just a thought and a great idea and something we can push on social media that, hey, the feminist movement, it's great. Well, yeah, it is great. Now let's see it, right? And we're starting to see it. It's starting to change. And through After School Matters, giving, women the belief and idea that, and really the motivation that can be achieved, it's going to change the world, man. Like, these are little things that have such an impact beyond the city of Chicago when you really think about it. I mean, the girl who goes to, the small school on the South Side, who does, her parents don't get out of work till 5 o'clock, right? So she has nothing to do until 5 o'clock. She goes to After School Matters. She learns in, a little bit of STEM or something. That could be the next president of the United States. That could be the next CEO of IBM. Like, these 100%. Are just one opportunity, one person. It shouldn't matter anymore where you grow up. If you grow up in the nicest neighborhood in Chicago, or the lowest income neighborhood in Chicago, both of those people, if two people grew up in those neighborhoods, both of them should have the same opportunity to achieve president, CEO of a company, and after school. That's exactly the intention of After School Matters, is giving those people the opportunity so that it doesn't matter where you grow up. it doesn't matter if your parents don't get home till 5 o'clock. You can do something after school, and you can reach those goals that are going to shatter and change the world forever.
And I think it's a beautiful point you hit on too. And there's this quote, and it's not something that I truly believe is the exact science of everything. I think anybody could be any position that they want to be, but I loved it in, there was this interview with a guy talking about, what women's role should be in a household and how it should be. And I loved this man's response. It was an ignorant interview. The entire interview was ignorant, and I hated every single minute of it. It might have been with a former president. We're not gonna get too political here, but it was somebody who definitely wears a toupee and is orange. But it's a conversation to where somebody who was also in that interview said, for his household, he has sons and daughters. I think he had like 7 kids, and 3 were daughters and 4 were boys. And you look at it and you say, we train our sons to be fighters, but we train our women to be leaders. And I think that to me was everything. He was saying, the boys just fight more times than not. They're going to athletically do what they do, but not every single one of them can be proven as a leader. And I think that's where he was really going with it, was really having this conversation as females, as women, they are more times than not some of the most intelligent individuals that you'll meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, that gets so ignored in today's society, and it's slowly changing. It's definitely slowly changing, but we'll even get into it a little bit later and on the show. And Kevin, if you're available later, we can definitely talk about it. But a lot of laws that are getting passed are kind of just putting this cap on women and really just obliterating years of work that society's been trying to do to make equal opportunity for everybody. And to really have some of those laws go through, it's devastating to truly see that. But it's a conversation right now. When we really look at it, like you said, being from Chicago, Ruthie Hebert is an amazing example of that. Southside Chicago. She is currently on the Chicago Sky defending a championship. We look at Derrick Rose from Inglewood doing what he did, the rose that grew before the cracks. It's a conversation right now. Yeah. And you look at Jabari Parker, you look at Dwayne Wade, you look at Ye, you look at Chance, you look at all these guys. And those are just some small positives. And this next part, it's definitely going to upset some people, but it's something that I truly do believe in. I listen to these guys every day. I'm going to say that first and foremost. I listen to these guys every day because I grew up understanding that. I grew up, sharing some experiences with some of them. I'm not going to incriminate myself, but with some of them, we share experiences, and I love listening to music. But today, Kevin, this is a conversation I don't even think I talked to you about, but I want to talk to you about it. When you look at individuals in Chicago, like I told you, you're either picking up a basketball or you're rapping. And that's really what a lot of kids look at. You look at the famous rappers from your selected city, wherever you're from. Morgan Wallen, if you're from the country, he's certified now. He's certified with Durkio. But when you look at guys like that, you're looking at King Von, you're looking at G Herbo, you're looking at guys who, Lil Durk. I mean, the list goes on and on. The list goes on and on of guys talking strictly about, selling drugs, gang banging, and just doing everything to make millions of dollars. But let's put the perspective on what it really is. And the reality of that situation is they are only where they are because they have a talent in rapping. And that's to really just put a damper on, the conversation of this is how you should move and this is how everybody should work. And I think that right now is becoming so driven through social media, and it's giving kids the wrong idea of that. So why I'm saying this and why I'm tying it into it, somebody who gives back to the city more than our own mayor is Chance the Rapper. And a lot of people crap on Chance because of his last album. I personally love it. If you don't love your wife, I don't know what's wrong with you. But it's a conversation where this man, and here's where I'll break it down, Kev, because I want to keep this short-winded because I want your opinion on it. I don't want to keep you here all day. But it's something to me where Chance did what he did, and he made what he made based off of his life experiences, based off of what he valued at that time. When you look at, like an album like 10 Day, just talking about growing up in Chicago and everything that he experienced in high school versus acid rap, where he even talks about addiction, and then obviously Coloring Book, he's talking about a broad statement of not only God and his religious beliefs, but just everything he's experienced in this world. And obviously The Big Day really just being what life has meant to him so far and his family and things that matter. And that goes so overboard, and it goes so underappreciated. And I feel like right now, those are the kind of guys that I look at and I go, you want to be like them. Kanye West, Donda. A lot of people hated Donda, and it wasn't my favorite album of all time, but it was definitely an album I respected because this man dedicated this album to doing what he does. And I'm going to say a name right now and your eyes are going to blow up. So please just get a hold of your seat really quick. Logic is also somebody that I really look at as somebody who says what they say because that's their experiences. Where more times than not, I see guys that, and I'm not Dirk, not Vaughn, not all those guys. I'm not going to name drop them. But I definitely see people who kind of just talk to talk. You know what I mean? Like they talk about what they know is going to get that stick, what's going to get people listening. Right now for you, how negative of an impact does that really have on today's youth to really just thinking that, these are the guys you want to look up to and these are the ways you need to move specifically in order to succeed versus guys like Chance and Ye and Logic who kind of just, they talk what they talk about and it's real, but it goes so unnoticed.
I mean, like those guys, like if you're a rapper, you can rap what you want to rap about. Like that's
Exactly.
the freedom of having it. But like, and I think honestly, what makes it special is that there are people willing to stick out and talk about like their life experiences. And quite frankly, I think that's what people connect with the most. But if everyone did that, it wouldn't be the same. Right. So it's almost good that you have like different styles and you have, there's always room for music that just talks about partying and talks about, other 100%. Things, right?
And like, I love it. Mac Miller is my favorite rapper of all time. And I'll stay there. I'll stay there and I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's very valid. I love Mac Miller. But there is something special about, those people who talk about, growing up and then talk about their life experiences. And I think there's people who really connect with that. And, there are some bad influences in the music game for sure. But the problem is there's not really much of a way around it, like right. It's just out there and people can listen to it. And some people, don't really connect with it. You just listen to music, it's right. Just, you listen to it, you don't 100% connect with it, but it is beautiful to have people, and I think Damian Hernandez in the chat even talked about Common a little bit too. And then you got Chance the Rapper and you 100%. Have people who talk about, and I think I think a very common theme, with a lot of rappers, regardless of what they talk about, is when you look at their story, like a lot of them do make it out. A lot of them, weren't given the greatest opportunity, but they found, and it's just like anything else that we talked about earlier, they found a talent, they made the most of it. And now, you would like to see them use it for good, but they found something that they love. And, you're right when you say, sometimes growing up, there's sometimes people go through the phase where you want to be that, right? And I might have the rapping talent, I want to be a rapper, and I might have this, but like that's fine. Like, if that's what you decide that you want to go for, I'm all for pursuing it, right? But you have to give people more opportunities and more, ideas of, okay, maybe I might be good at this, right? Because you talked about growing up, people might grow up and there's only a couple avenues for me. Right. My only avenue might be to play basketball or play football or play another sport or be a rapper or something else. Right. Because either they're struggling in school or, they're struggling. You just don't connect with some of the things that happen in school. That's the case for a lot of people. School's just not for them. And that's fine. School is not for everybody. But you talked earlier about doing a trade. Right. We've almost like completely eliminate that from our society is like an option, right? It's like, if you don't go to college anymore, you're done. Right. It's like, no, that's not the case.
Not to cut it short, but when you really look at it, I remember specifically when I was a kid, we went to Beaubien Elementary School, and we would always see the garbage men in middle school. I think it was like my second grade, not like my fourth grade class, something like that. We'd always see the garbage men come on and drive past on certain days. And we always used to look out the window. And I had this teacher, and I won't name drop her because I hope she's doing well. But I think, one of the false information is one of the biggest things in high school. They want you to go to college. And I understand that. They want you to go to college because obviously it all ties in together. If colleges get accepted, then your high school looks better, because if Kevin Lapka gets accepted to Ohio State, it's something to where Lane Tech looks good because of it. And we had a conversation in high school. I remember back in the day, one kid got into Stanford at Northtown Academy. Now, more times than not, everybody in my high school at that time was having kids. Everybody in that high school was dropping out in my graduating class. But one kid, Kevin Lapka, one kid made it into Stanford, and I promise you, they wrote it into the sunset. Northtown never stopped talking about it. To this day, they talk about Stanford. But the reality of the situation is why I bring that up. You look at a kid, and I remember sitting in my fourth grade class saying, wow, garbage man looks cool. Like, dude hanging off the back of a truck, just slinging garbage into a trash thing. It looks awesome. It looks fun. And in a fourth grader's mind, that's something where you go, hey, maybe I'll pursue that one day. Maybe one kid in that class thought that. Our teacher sat there and she said, you don't want to be like that. That is a poor man's job. And Now that I'm older and I understand that that garbage man is making 3 times more than that teacher who is telling me it's a poor man's job, baffles my mind. And that's it's not a shot at any teachers. You know, it's a something that you're passionate about, teaching the youth. That's you. But we're not going to sit here and act like garbage men aren't making $40 an hour. Like that's what it is. And I think that goes so underutilized in high school because, like I said, you know, you're having these conversations of, well, we want Kevin, who got accepted in Ohio State, to go to Ohio State. We don't want him to deny it and then go do a trade. It doesn't benefit the school. And I think that's with After School Matters. You're starting to see that. You're starting to see people say, hey, it's not about us. It's not about the school. It's not about, you know, this program. It's about you at the end of the day. It's about you being the best you can by the time you walk out of here, and potentially being able to give that back later on. So for you, how important is it to kind of have that change of passage in that conversation of, you know, okay, trades are being more commonly accepted, being a tattoo artist, being a bartender, everything is being more accepted, and people aren't just expected to do these typical 9-to-5s after 4 years of college.
Well, the bottom line of the conversation is destroying the stigma that, you know, money is everything, right? And you know, all you're chasing in life is money, right? I mean, I think there's a couple good graphics and cartoons about it where it's just like it's a person and all they're chasing and all they're in front of them, like, and at the end of their life is a pile of dollar bills, right? And that's not what it's all about, right? Like something may not pay the most, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you shouldn't achieve it. But we kind of are, I feel like in certain areas of society we're taught that, oh, you know, like the top, like the peak of life, right? The peak form of human life is owning a Bugatti and having a yacht and you know, living in a mansion, right? And all of these different things. Like that's the peak form of life, when the peak form of life is just the happiest you can possibly be. And if the happiest you could possibly be is, you know, you got a family, you're doing a trade, you're doing whatever you want to do, and you know, maybe you're not making $1 million, but you're making enough to get by and you're happy.
Right.
That's what we have to teach people. And like, again, the reason why the whole, you know, college thing, and like I encourage everyone to go to college, but if you don't want to, you know, that's you don't have to, right? Like, but it's like, oh, the only avenue to achieve happiness is to go to college and then make money after that, because the only way you're going to make money is if you go to college, and the only way you can achieve, you know, the peak form of human life is if you go to college and make money. Like, it doesn't have to be the way, the cookie cutter way society puts it, because there's a system now where that's exactly the way it is, right. You know, you enter elementary school. Once you enter elementary school, like there is this cookie cutter system. There's this journey that they lay out for you. And if you kind of fray away from the you know, the common path, then, you know, there's something wrong with you, or, you know, something's just not right, where it's, you know, maybe I just found love in something else. I mean, Chance the Rapper dropped out of high school. He dropped a mixtape, dropped out of high school. He just found love in something else. You know, I have plenty of other friends who just found love in something else, didn't go to college, and they're just as happy as I am. And I, you know, graduated college. So that's like, I think it's just very important to kind of destroy that stigma that it's a linear vertical path to success, right, and to happiness, and everyone has to follow that path. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with people who do follow that path, because I am one of them, you know, but it's just we've come to a point in society where that's just the way it is. But, you know, that's why things are changing. I hope. And, you know, there's voices out there, and there's, you know, opportunities out there where there's people who are given the voice to change things. So I hope that's the case, man. I really do.
100%. I think, you know, a part that you hit on the most was just following your path. And I think that was where I was going with it, in having that conversation about the rapper stigma, and that conversation of, you know, what are they talking about? Now, I know guys, you know, like Dirk, like Von, God rest his soul, and a bunch of other guys throughout Chicago history who talk about, you know, the realities of them growing up. You know, G Herbo makes it perfectly clear, like, he's not happy. Like the stuff he's experienced, the PTSD aspect of growing up where he grew up, it's definitely a conversation to where, you know, you're sitting here and you're looking at it the way it is, and you think, you know, it's all going to be glory. You think it's all going to be this certain way, and it ties into college as well. I think when you look at it, you look at a rapper's success, you think, hey, I'm going to do the same thing he did, but you don't see those bad days. I think a lot of people look at, you know, I look at Kevin Lapka, a college graduate. I go, man, I got this. I just started this week. Man, these next 3 classes going to be something, and I'm going to break it down. I'll leave it at that, but they're going to be something for sure. But it's a process, and it's something to where a lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of people don't understand the work behind closed doors. Everybody always sees the final product, and I made it perfectly clear with Brennen Davis when we were on the phone together the other night. Brennen is going to end up in the big leagues one day, and hopefully,
he will probably next year.
Right, and hopefully he's going to be the face of the Chicago Cubs. But in between that, what happened in single A, double A, triple A, the back surgeries, the issues that he's had and had to endure, not just on the field, but in life. A lot of people don't look at it that way. And that was where I was going more so when you talk about guys like Chance the Rapper. If you want to be a rapper and you want to be who you want to be, and you believe this is me, by all power, do what you got to do. But when I look at guys and who are influencing it in a negative light, saying, hey, this is what I do and this is what you need to do as well, that's where I'm like, yo, what are we talking about? Chance has a new album coming out, Starline Gallery. It's going to be dope. It's going to be sick, and it's going to be something to where, he has fully embodied himself into Africa and into so many other worlds. And I think the art world is so different, and he's going to talk about that. But I know you got to bounce out of here, so we are going to get one final take before you get out of here. Probably one of the most important takes. Kevin Lapka, the Chicago Bears. Well, you know I got to do it. I got to do it. We're looking at it right now, 49ers. And this is just a conversation for everybody while we get out of here. And we're going to have Kevin on again in a little bit because there were some conversations that we had that were pre-recorded that I do still want to get out there, that I do think you guys are going to enjoy. That's why I purposely added new questions to this one. But when we sit here, Kevin, week 1 is upon us at Soldier Field. Trey Lance, who's never legitimately started in a game where it was him as QB1. First timer. Man, Kevin, year 2 for Justin Fields, though. Year 2. We're going to sit here and we're going to talk about it right now, Kevin. Let's stop beating around the bush. Chicago Bears upset week 1?
I think so. I do. If I'm going to lock it in. You know what? We're 9 days away from the season. I'm going to lock it in. The Chicago Bears are going to win week 1. And we had Tom Thayer on the podcast today on Bears Nation podcast. And, he was telling all the fans, he gave a little message to the fans. He said, be loud. Be loud. If you're going to the game on Sunday, he said it's going to be an insane atmosphere because you have a real chance to rattle a guy like Trey Lance, who not only is he a rookie, or he's essentially a rookie, right? I mean, he's playing his first season. He's essentially a rookie. He didn't play last year. Obviously, he's a second-year player. But you have a real chance to rattle him because there's a lot of things going on in that guy's mind. You have to understand what happened last year to Justin Fields is the same thing that's happening now to Trey Lance. Last year, Justin Fields had zero confidence that the faith of the organization was behind him. There was, obviously Andy Dalton was named the week 1 starter. And if you're Justin Fields, you're like, this organization doesn't believe in me right now. They drafted me 12th overall and they don't believe in me. And right now, Jimmy Garoppolo gets a contract. They restructure his contract for him to stay in San Francisco. And if I'm Trey Lance, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, they only do that because they don't have full faith in me. Right. And that's sitting in the back of his mind. So what that means is when he goes out to play on Sundays, he knows that lurking right behind him on every single play is Jimmy Garoppolo. 100%. And if he goes one day where he makes multiple mistakes, maybe throws 2 or 3 interceptions, he might be out of the game. He might no longer be the quarterback for the 49ers. And something like that could be almost as devastating as not being a starting quarterback for the rest of your career. Like 100%. if you struggle and Jimmy Garoppolo replaces you, the rest of your career is in peril because no one is going to really believe in you. They don't really know if you really had it. You got benched for Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's going to be sitting in the back of his mind. And it's nice. It would be a totally different story if you had to go to San Francisco. They have to come to Chicago, to Soldier Field for what could be one of the last seasons at Soldier Field as we find out that Arlington Heights is going to be in the works, according to sources
next Thursday.
So Bears fans are going to be loud to be ready to go. And, it's not just, Bears fans are going to be loud. That means the Bears are going to win. The Bears have a legitimately good defense, and their offense is good enough to score probably, I think, 24 points, I think, is all you're going to need to beat the 49ers on Sunday. So lock it in, Mike. Bears win. If you're a betting guy, they're plus 230 on the money line. If you put $100 on it, you're rich. Go do it.
100%. I think, a big part of what you hit on too is, there's a lot of expectations that go with Trey before we get you out, and I wanted to get your comparison. I wanted you here today to have this conversation. I didn't want to do it by myself because I always sound crazy. When I look at the situation, you gave up 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. That's a problem. You took him over Justin Fields, Mac Jones, others. It's a conversation right now to where you look at it and you see these other guys having success and you see these other guys kind of starting to come into their own, and Mac more than Justin at this very point in time, just because, obviously he came into a very better situation, a situation to where, a lot of benefits there. But when you look at a situation, we can tie this into 49ers fans looking at us right now. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. How similar is Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo's situation, especially with the draft picks that were given up for Lance, to Mitchell Trubisky when we traded for Nick Foles from Jacksonville? It was a huge situation because you understand Nick isn't just here to help groom you. Nick is here in case you fumble the bag, and that's exactly why Jimmy's there. Last year we talked about it too, about Trey Lance. Trance, pardon me. But it's a conversation to where, this kid wasn't getting reps with the starters. He wasn't even getting reps with the backups. Jimmy was getting all of it. And that was one of the biggest problems, was like you're sitting with this kid and not really developing him in that way. So for you, how similar, before we get out of here, is Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles to Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo?
It's very similar. And if you remember what happened to Trubisky and Foles that year, was it took 2 games. Trubisky played like okay for 2 games. Right. He actually played really well the first game against Detroit. Third game against Atlanta, he makes like one mistake and they're down like 19 at the half. You're gone, right? Yeah. You're gone. Hi. And Matt Nagy was waiting for that opportunity. So the reason why it's similar is because I think the same thing is true as far as, again, if Trey Lance makes one mistake, it's, you go back to what they believe is their safety blanket in Jimmy Garoppolo. Right. And if you're being honest, I mean, you can't, like, the difference. Here's the major difference in the situation. When it was Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, you didn't know which one. We believed that Mitch Trubisky gave you the better chance to win and get you to the playoffs. We still believe. And that actually turned out to be a fact, because once Nick Foles came in, he won a couple of games and they lost 6 straight. And we were all like, look what happened. But the difference between the two situations is you didn't know who was really the better option. You didn't know what the ceiling was. You know what goals they could have reached with either of those guys. The thing with the 49ers is, in the back of their mind, what they do know for a fact is, with this current team that has barely 0 to none roster turnover from last year, is that team
went to
made the they made the conference championship. They made the conference championship.
But they've also been to a Super Bowl with Jimmy. So like, it's what can you do with Trance?
Exactly.
Trance. Damn. What
I know it's kind of a good nickname, but it is. If Trey Lance struggles, it's now going to be easier for them to pull that leash, because you know that you can throw in Jimmy Garoppolo, and you have been a contending team. It's not like, we think we could be a better team with Jimmy Garoppolo, because that was the case with the Bears. We think we could be a better team with Nick Foles, which turned out to be not true. They know they can be a better team with Jimmy Garoppolo if things go wrong. So
it's not bad, Damian. I'll take that if it comes down to that. And I'll tell you why that hurts, though. By 3, you're telling me Robbie Gould's gonna break my heart yet again? It's so unfortunate.
It's over. The Bears are winning this game. I've almost, like, there are times, Mike, where I'll choose the Bears to win, and I'm like, I'm kind of being optimistic.
I know. I know. I see your, if you haven't already, and by the way, I do want to plug you in here before you get out. Definitely check out Bears Nation podcast on TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it may be. Check it out. Kevin does amazing work there. But where the real show is, where everything that matters holds, is Kevin's Instagram takes. Kevin's Instagram takes make my day. Now, he's either playing Fortnite, sending you his favorite music, or he's telling you after one preseason game that the Bears are going to the Super Bowl, or after one week 1 upset.
I'm joking.
He's joking, but he's not. And that's But Kevin, bro, we do appreciate you coming on today, man. And again, if you want to hear more from Kevin, check out Bears Nation podcast, or just keep watching 670 The Score. This kid's going to be the face of the network one day. Kevin, again, we appreciate you for coming on, man.
Thank you, man. Again, great job for doing this. I hope everyone here is staying in and donating, and you're making a difference, man. Great work. So,
not a doubt, bro. We'll catch you later, man.
All right, man.
And one of the biggest things right now that I truly do look at, when we're talking about after school matters, in all seriousness, I think it's a conversation that we really do need to run up the board. And I did block out my face for a second just to give you a reminder of why you're here. They do so much for the community. They do so much for people. And honestly, without them, I really don't know who I would be today. And I don't know who a lot of my friends would be today. It saves a lot of lives. It builds a lot of key relationships that are going to last on forever. And, a conversation that we're going to have have was with another Chicago native and somebody who I made amazing friends with and built a real relationship with throughout this year working for the Chicago Sky and the WNBA is Stephen Garner. And Stephen Garner from Nuts and Bolts does amazing work. He covers all hoops from WNBA, NBA to college basketball, both men's and women's. He does amazing things, and I'm super excited to have him on as our next guest. So we're going to throw in Stephen Garner right now. Stephen, my brother, we are here. Super excited to have you on, and I appreciate you for doing this yet again. So here's our interview with Stephen last night. Just an amazing talk. We talked Chicago Sky basketball, WNBA in general, and just kind of growing up in Chicago and what that really means for him. At it with another interview today on one of my favorite events we've ever done. I think right now, when I look at everything ASAP Network has done and everything we've accomplished today, I'm super excited to not only be sitting here with somebody that I highly respect in the WNBA and somebody that does amazing work outside of just that, but all around sports. I'm sitting here with Stephen Gardner right now. My man, the legend, Skytown's king. How are we feeling today?
Man, I gotta live up to the lofty standards you just put on me, and I appreciate it. I'm feeling blessed, man. I'm blessed and just thankful, for life, for all these different things, that opportunities that I have access to, and I'm just extremely and just eternally grateful, man. How about yourself?
Man, a lot better now that, the Sky have tied it up. We had a great game last night. We also had Serena Williams doing her thing. So, that's definitely just blessings all around, man. And, me and you, we got introduced to each other this year after I got credentials. I believe it was, we met around like April, May. And then, obviously, the season progressed and we got, closer throughout that. But, to really recap on who you are and what you're trying to do, not only in the W, but just in sports in general, could you kind of give everybody kind of just a background on you and where they might be able to find you?
Yeah, so again, Mike just introduced me, but I'm Stephen Garner. I'm a 2018 graduate from Illinois State. I majored in sports journalism. Sports is everything. It doesn't define me, but sports is like everything to me. I've been playing sports since I think I started playing baseball when I was maybe 4 years old. So baseball was my first love. As I got older, I grew more partial to basketball, and basketball is not my favorite sport. So you put two and two together with basketball, playing basketball, writing about basketball, talking about basketball, and my passion for writing, and boom, you got a perfect career for me. So sports journalism is my thing. And I'm just now laying like the foundation for my career, just trying to work my way to my first full-time opportunities, whether it's with the W or with the NBA. And full-time, like grand scheme of things, I want to be able to do both, cover the entire NBA and cover the entire WNBA, and just continue to shed light on all of these amazing athletes and amazing people that also happen to be athletes that are in both sports.
100%. And I think, the beauty of that, and it's something that I have found to be a blessing for what we do, because I obviously cover the Bulls in the Sky. And, it's so much easier when you don't have to cover both of them at the same time. They don't overlap. And it's a beautiful thing, bro, because I don't think I could do it. I'd be mixing up names. I'd be mixing up everything. But, it's definitely a conversation right now to, like you said, baseball, obviously if you're watching this live stream, you heard our interview with Kevin Lapka earlier. Him and I grew up playing ball together, and it was my first love too. And basketball has slowly transitioned into that. And Gardner, I'm only 5'8". You've met me in person, so I understood my basketball career was only going to go so far as a player, and it probably didn't go anywhere past middle school. So, it's something right now, though, to where, we've been talking about it all stream is how it's shaped us, especially in a city like Chicago, especially in a community that maybe you're from the north, south, west, or east side, but I think that it's a melting pot no matter where you are for the majority part of it. And for you, how important was sports? How important was your first love in baseball into shaping you to who you are today, but it also kind of allowing you to realize, like you said, it's not the only part of who you are?
Yeah, man, first of all, that's an excellent question. It's broad, and it's broad in like a general sense in a good way, just because sports are such an all-encompassing thing. Like it's well past the athletics part of it. Like it teaches kids, especially if you start early enough and your parents let go of the leash and allow coaches to not only just coach you, but also be like a teacher to you. It allows you to kind of learn how to process things differently. You learn how to communicate with people that you might not usually communicate with based off of what community you might come from. You learn how to deal with people that you've never really seen before, as far as like people being from other teams. You learn how to tackle adversity. You learn about how you typically will react to adversity and how to like shapeshift that into a way that's positive and conducive to whatever goal it is you're working towards, whether that's winning a game, executing a business scenario. Like all these little things that happen in sports are a microcosm of how people typically will handle things outside of that realm. And I feel like that starts at the foundation when we're younger, when you're able to again have good coaching and have good parents that allow coaches to be that like coach or that parent adjacent essentially. That really helps like shapeshift and kind of just like take things that you necessarily wouldn't experience without the experience in sports. You're able to like kind of give them a test run and then like just flip them into something that's eventually what becomes you. And like for me personally, I know with sports it was like the perfect outlet because regardless of what you might have going on, whether it's a good thing, bad thing, or anywhere in between, sports can always be that avenue and that outlet for you to just kind of let loose, kind of detach from anything that you might have going on, and let that be like your sanctuary in a sense. And even to this day, I still use sports as that outlet, sports and working out, because we need balance in life. Like even kids need balance in life. It can't just always be school, 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 chores, and dealing with family. Everybody needs balance, and one of the biggest things with sports, on top of like teaching life lessons and things of that nature, is bringing that balance to where it's an outlet for you to just be whoever it is you want to be whenever you're inside those lines or inside the ring or on the track or whatever arena you might be in. So yeah, sports are just undeniably and just infinitely important, and you really can't place a value on them, especially for kids.
100%. I think you hit on a couple great points, and I really love the detaching yourself part of it. And I think Kevin and I spoke about this. That's one of my partners at 670. He's a great guy. We do all types of bull stuff. If you haven't checked that out, I'm gonna have to send it to you. But
Sure.
he's amazing at what he does, and he went to Lane Tech, and I went to a different school in Chicago, and we really talked about how our backgrounds changed because of that. Lane Tech, there's a lot of high standards for you there, whereas my high school that I won't name drop, at the time it's gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better, and I'm currently the high school baseball coach there, so I'm not gonna sit here and say it's awful. But I think when I was there was this standard of, okay, well, you're either going to do it or you're not, and no one's really going to keep you accountable for it. And that was really the problem. If I had an F, then I was still going to be starting in center field at the end of the day and that day for the game. If Kevin had an F, it's that conversation of Lane Tech holds you to that standard of, we don't want to just use you for your talents. We want to mold boys into men, girls into women, and everywhere from top to bottom, just get the best version of everybody that you can. And when you say detach yourself, I love that, because we kind of use this example. I'm sure you remember back in the day taking the CTA and having that conversation with your buddies. You get on. We told Kevin, like, you get on at Addison and you got guys getting off 2 stops later, but you got guys taking it all the way down to the city, down to the red line, down to the trenches, and it's this conversation of, this is your group. These are your guys and or your girls or whatever kind of team you're on. And it's that conversation of, you don't need to think about reality. You might come from an unstable home. You might come from a place that, the death rate or the graduation rate at 18 is a lot higher or a lot lower than other places. And, after school matters, not only after school matters, but extracurricular activities are so important to what these kids are doing right now. And I was wondering if you could kind of speak on, how, especially being in such a diverse and melting pot of a city that we're in, how that makes, kids from the suburbs and kids from 79th Street are all coming together and kind of buying into one specific thing. And it kind of gives everybody the same equal opportunity, even though, once they leave there, are they going to always have that equal opportunity? More times than not, they're not. But from what they've learned from After School Matters and how they can apply that into the world, how does that benefit them?
Well, it greatly benefits them, just like with sports being an avenue for, for an outlet of things, for kids to just become better people and understanding people more. The After School Matters program does the same thing. Again, it teaches them to how to interact with kids that might have a different makeup or a different upbringing or just different personality traits, kids versus from the city versus kids from the suburbs. It just allows them, to practice communication skills and things of that nature, and really just gives them generally just opportunities to just continue to just grow. Like one of the biggest things you can afford kids is the opportunity to grow and grow in spaces that they might not necessarily be comfortable or used to being in. So, you add a melting pot of kids and cultures and ages and, like I said, different backgrounds and upbringings and things like that. You bring them all into one central location or via different entities of it, just having them, allowing themselves to interact with others. Like you just can't put a value on that thing. And I didn't have that specific outlet when I was younger, but I was lucky enough to have a brother that's 15 years older than me, and he works with it's a non-for-profit organization called Play for Peace, and they do things where they take kids from inner city schools and they take them on weekend excursions and things like that to like campgrounds and different things like that that typically inner city kids will not have the experience of, and it again brings them into groups with kids from different schools that they might not ever see if it wasn't for this opportunity, and it just teaches them like team building skills, teaches them communication skills, allows them to network and really just generally get out of their comfort zones. And I just feel like anything pertaining to those specific traits for kids from any age really is just invaluable, and you really just can't have enough of those type of opportunities.
And I think you hit that on the head too, because we also spoke about, the difference between, what the end of a day typically looks like for a kid in Chicago. And I think there's so many different ways it can go. When the street lights turn on, there's a lot of kids that don't go home, for dinner because they know there's really nothing to go home to. A lot of my buddies that I grew up with, and I keep saying it, I won't name drop them, but some of these guys to this day, some of them, God rest their soul, and some of them are still good friends of mine, today. And it's a conversation though where I could be real with them and really sit down and ask, like, like when you're a kid, you just assume, hey man, I'm going home. So is everybody else. I'm going to eat dinner. So is everybody else. I'm going to go see mom and dad or my sister or whoever, and everything's going to be straight. But that wasn't the situation for everybody. And now that we're older, we can recognize that and understand that. So to actually give a kid a space, a safe place to be, Stefan, let's put away just giving them those tools. Let's say we don't give them the extracurricular stuff. Let's say we don't give them the sports or the artistic abilities and stuff like that after school, but just having a safe place to be after school, especially, let's be real here, 10 months out of the year. And I said 10. And if anybody in the comments is upset with me about it, we can fight, because 10 months out of the year, it is cold as shit in this city. So to have a kid who might not have heat, might not have AC in their house, to be able to have not just, people who care about them, but a space to be where it's theirs. I think that to me is everything.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man, because like you said, everybody, like, it's easy for a kid to think like, okay, my homie Johnny is going home and he's gonna have the exact same thing that I'm going home to, when in reality, none of our at-home situations and scenarios are the same. And that's why it's important to have these opportunities as outlets for kids, because it allows for them to be detached from that or whatever it is that's going on, like I mentioned early, positive or negative. It just allows them to detach from it, just be in a different space with like-minded and like-age, people. And then it also, like you said, it allows for like a balance to where if you're not going home to something that's stable, we're presenting you with something stable outside of school that allows you to have some of those traits that Johnny might go home to that I might not have. But I can have something similar to that, for an allotment of time to kind of bring balance and hopefully kind of steer me down the right path long term, to bring long term like sustained successes or just things of positivity, rather than falling into the inevitable traps that a big city like Chicago presents. Especially for the inner city kids, depending on what part of the city you grew up in. So those opportunities to just, like I said, detach from the real world, detach from what's going on at home, even detach from what's going on at school, and just have an entity to where you can just be just free, like something that's liberating and something that can also be fulfilling. Like, you just can't put a value on those things. You really can't.
For sure. And, Steven, before we get you out of here, because I know you got to go put that grind in. You working out today.
Yes, sir.
Gotta give love to you, bro. I pulled my hamstring a few months ago. I haven't been back since. But it's a conversation right now, and we need to hear it. We're going to have two conversations. One, if you're comfortable talking about it, we got to talk about Sue Bird and what she's doing right now with everybody going on in Seattle, having to play against Becky Hammon and Kelsey Plum. It's it's something right now. So for you, I know you were, you were super busy yesterday, as was I. We were covering the Sky game, but I know you were on your phone. You can't tell me you weren't. How's that matchup right now going into Game 3, 1-1 apiece? Going into, I believe they're going into Vegas, if I'm not mistaken.
They're going to Seattle.
They're going to Seattle. So going into Seattle, you know who Breonna Stewart is. You know what she's capable of. Tina Charles and company. Right now, unbiased opinion. Let's take the Sky out of it. We know who we want to see. We know who we know we want to see Sue. We want to see Sue versus Candace. That's my personal last dance. I want to see it. But for you right now, looking at that matchup, how do you see it going in Seattle?
Well, the fact that they stole Game 1 and they did it without Gabby Williams, that told me everything in terms of how prepared they were, how they match up past the hypotheticals that everybody puts forth before a series starts. And just the level of play that they're exuding on both ends of the floor is unreal. They get so much activity from their defense, including Sue Bird, who was, of course, at the end of her career. She's still so smart, so cerebral, and she's seeing everything. Like, there's nothing you can give her that she hasn't seen at least 100 times before. So just having that level of leadership, and then having somebody the likes of Breonna Stewart, who can literally do everything on the basketball court and do it better than almost anybody else in the league. Like, it's just the perfect meshing of talents to go against a team that's as high powered as the Aces is. And also shout out to Seattle's coach Noelle Quinn, because we talk about the best coaches in the W. Her name might not be first, second, third, fourth, or fifth, depending on who you are, but she deserves, and she's earned the credit that would put her in that elite ranking. And again, look no further than Game 1. And though they lost Game 2, look at the issues that they're causing for the high-powered Aces. The Aces are obviously the favorite team in this series, and the fact that Seattle was able to just give them so many different jabs and make them work for everything and make them sweat. Like, even Becky Hammond, I'm sure Becky Hammond at this point is emptying out her card of counters and, the playbook in general, just going to the depths of it just to scrape together wins against this team. Like, it's just unreal, the level of just professionalism with the Seattle Storm. And you wouldn't expect anything less when you look at the leaders on that team between Sue Bird and, of course, Breonna Stewart. So if I had to make a prediction, the fact that they won Game 1, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're going to see the Storm advance to the finals by Game 4.
Game 4. I like that. I like that a lot, because I had the same prediction. But, when you say it, it's genius. When I say it, it's a hot take and everybody hates it on here. But that's okay. That's okay. I respect it. But when I want to ask you something, and it's very premature. It's something that I've been sitting on all season long, and I've been waiting for Sue Bird to announce this retirement, because I got plans. Steven, I got plans here for the W. I got one of the greatest duos to ever potentially step on the W court, potentially teaming up.
I already know where you're going.
You know where I'm going. She's going home, Steven. Breonna Stewart teaming up with Sabrina Ionescu going into the winter. Do you see this being a real possibility? And here's where I'll twist it for you so it's relevant. If Seattle goes to the finals this year and they make it, do you see Breonna staying in Seattle, or do you think she goes home?
Well, I've personally had in my head that Stewie was going to end up going to New York because of so many reports.
Come on, Steven, talk to me, baby. Talk to me.
So many reports before the season started. They kept giving different ideas that Breonna was waiting to see what Sue was going to do, if she was going to go and play this final season or if she was going to go ahead and retire during the offseason. So It kind of seems like Stewie was just by the wayside waiting to hear confirmation from Sue. When she got the confirmation, she signed the 1-year deal. If she wouldn't have got that confirmation, I feel like her pen was already in the air, just waiting to hear something from Sue. And if she said no, she was going to go ahead and sign with the Liberty. So I think it's a foregone conclusion that she ends up in New York next season, which would be absolutely nuts. The fact that they would have Sabrina Marin, who's arguably the most fun player in the W to watch.
100%.
And she's still barely scratching the surface of what she's going to be in the W. And then you add Stewie to that.
And I
That's a
think,
team that's going to be in the way of everybody, like
100%.
everybody.
100%. And I look at Sandy and what she's been able to do, and I know
Yeah.
she's waiting for Sky free agency right now because there's so much that's going to go into that. And we could talk about that another day. But right now, I think Han is someone too that I truly look at, and I call her Baby Giannis, and I say that because she's only 22, and she came in very lengthy, very skinny. I said, this girl gets in that weight room and she puts in some work. She is going to be one of the nastiest centers in this game. But Steven, before we get you out of here, brother, we can't just end this talking about fucking Seattle or Las Vegas. We got to talk Sky, baby. Right now, Candace Parker, my boy, you were there last night. You were sitting there. I didn't get the pleasure of actually being at the first 2 home games. I had some college stuff I had to work on, figures. But it's something right now to where, Candace Parker, who the broadcasters have gone out on a limb and crowning her the fountain of youth. Right now, averaging 5 blocks damn near a game. How would you put into words what she's been able to do in not only just this playoff season, but in the entire season as a whole?
Well, and I was actually just talking to my mom about this yesterday, because she was asking me, is she still thinking about retiring? Like, did I feel like she might be, contemplating it? What I've been telling people that ask me this question all season is, like, it's hard to gauge. So I just like to look at what she's doing on the floor.
Right.
She's still a top 10 player in the WNBA to this day. Like, if I don't have a vote in the W, but if I had a ballot to fill out for the MVP award, she would have been in my top 5. She probably would have been number 4, really close to number 3. Like, the way she plays on both ends of the floor, like, she can go from playing a point guard to playing a center to playing a power forward on any given possession. Sure. She literally does it on any given possession. She'll go from making a play for somebody, then go down to the post, and then make a pass out of it, and then they score. And then on the defensive end, she's playing from sideline to sideline, guarding players like Sabrina Ionescu 35 feet from the basket, guarding players like Chelsea Gray and Kelsey Plum 30 feet from the basket with her hedging. She's switching, she's communicating, she's getting blocks. Like, it's just unfathomable the level of play that she's at this age. It's like, if you watch her play and you didn't have an idea what age she was, you probably think she was like 28 or 29, or maybe 30.
For sure.
So, and that in itself just kind of entails everything that she is. It shows the attention to detail that she has with her training. It shows how serious she is about her craft. It shows how much of a leader she is, because, of course, people think about leadership being like a dictator and things like that. That's not necessarily leadership, in my opinion. What you do, leading by example, is the biggest way and the best way for you to be a leader. And you look at what she's done, like you said, all season. She was, in my opinion, top 4, probably top 3 in the MVP race. And I could talk for literally days on Candace, but the level of play that she's at right now, she's literally a top 5 player in the playoffs right now. And that goes to tell you everything. You still have the other 2 MVP candidates that are going against each other right now. And you got other players like Kelsey Plum, like Chelsea Gray.
You got Young, you got Wilson.
Yeah, you got Young, Wilson, Kelsey Plum. You got, Kalia Copper. You can look across at Alyssa Thomas, Jonquel Jones. Like, all of these big names, and Candace is still right there. She's so revered in this game for a reason. And she's almost, I don't want to say it because she always talks about how old she feels in the press conference, but you can never tell what she does on the floor. Like, at no point do you think she's the age that she actually is. And it's just unbelievable, man. It's why she's the GOAT, in my opinion.
And I think, you hit on that too. And it's one of those conversations where, and I won't ever have the balls to say it to her, but I think sometimes, she takes it easy during the regular season, and she still, her numbers, everything she's doing, is efficient, and it's top 10 in this league. But you can definitely see the difference between when she turns that on in the playoffs. I like to compare it, and I hate it because I know if she was listening to this, she'd get so heated. But I compare it to Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler in the regular season, we're not going to say, it's as bad as from 3 as Jimmy was. But let's be real here. Jimmy turns it on in the playoffs to this level where it's like, this kid looks 25 years old again. And I think that's where Candace is. She don't care about no MVP award at this point. She's already got that. She's been there. She's done that. She wants that title. She wants that ring. So, I think, Allie from SLU to everybody kind of understood that, to where, and you and I talked about it about last year too, is like, they were so injury prone last year, and everything could have went wrong. And that was just something that they had to face. So I think going into this year, they understood that this year they have the depth. You know, they had Rebecca, they had Dana, they have Ruthie, they have Lee for some time, and they have everybody that they can really move around. And let's not forget Azare, because I always forget about Azare, but it's for the best reason. Because when I think about the bench, I don't think about Azare Stevens, because Azare Stevens, that's starter 5B to me. Like that's somebody on that team that when I think of sixth man of the year, that's Azare Stevens 110% of the way. But Steven, before we get you out of here, brother, I truly appreciate you being here, bro. And if you could plug in just again where everybody can find you, and even your takes on the W.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you for the opportunity. Even before I get to me, I really appreciate just being able to talk sports or just be able to talk like the youth and just anything pertaining to Chicago. These conversations are important, and even more than the conversations, the actions behind them are most important. In prioritizing the youth. With that being said, you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at StayTrue S.3 STAYTRUE SDOT the number 3. I'm always on Twitter more than anything else, talking hoop, whether it's college, women's, of course, right now with the Chicago Sky, or the NBA, and sometimes all three within like a course of 3 tweets. So yeah, follow me on there. I follow back if you engage and if you talk hoops. I got a lot of work coming up as the Sky continue on with their quest to repeat as champions, and a lot more stuff coming with the NBA as well. So there's a whole lot of hoops talk going on. And yeah, let's make basketball discourse more productive and more positive, instead of all of the other shenanigans and nonsense and antics going on in the world. Let's make that outlet. Let's make it be a positive outlet that it's supposed to be, and not pertain to all the other negative things. So let's be better.
Without a doubt, bro. Again, we appreciate you for coming on, man.
No problem, man. Thank you for the opportunity. Be great.
You too. Getting right back into the swing of things, I am super excited to be having my guest tonight on Mike on the Mic. Happy to be here. Kevin Lapka is one of my best friends, man. This kid works his tail off. This kid does every single thing anybody's ever asked of him, all the way from being one of the top tier athletes Lane Tech has ever seen, and could have been a first round draft pick in the NFL if he would have dedicated his life to football. But he is a state champion in baseball for high school in Illinois. Kevin Lapka, welcome to the show, my brother.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be on with you. What you're doing here is super, super cool, and I'm honored that you wanted to bring me on for this special event, man. So I'm real excited to be with you, Mike.
100%, bro. And we see what you're doing over there. We see what you're doing at 670 The Score, Bears Nation podcast. If you haven't checked it out already, give Kevin some love. Him and Jake do amazing things over there. Their TikTok is busting right now. Shout out to Jake for that. But with that being said, it's definitely a conversation right now, Kevin, and we were just talking about it before we brought you on. Growing up in the city, growing up where we grew up, there's a lot of different ways it can go for someone like us. And being a male, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, or whatever you may be, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee into how your life is going to play out. There's no guarantee of how long you're going to live and what your life might end up being, because you don't know what the support systems are going to be like for every single individual. So for you, we grew up in a very diverse place, in a melting pot. We grew up hitting Gompers Park and Mayfair and all these different places where, you can meet all different walks of life. For you, growing up in the city, how much could you attribute that to, how good you are at not only just, doing what you're doing now in the sports world, but just communicating with people on a daily basis?
It's everything to me, man. I thought about that a lot. Once I got into college, and once I got into a college campus in a different part of the country, and I got away from the city, you start to appreciate those things more. I went to Ohio State University. Ohio State, it's an unbelievable university, but it's not the most diverse campus. It's just not. It's predominantly white people. And you think about it, when you get into a space like that, you think back about your times in Chicago and how lucky I was to experience what I experienced and be around different types of people, and just what it does for you to be in, like you said, that melting pot with different people, different walks of life, and how it makes you more appreciative and grateful. And it just teaches you a lot of things in a lot of different ways. I think I even wrote that in my college essay when I applied to all those schools back, years ago, was, my identity is Chicago. My identity is Chicago for a number of reasons. And one of the main reasons is when you go around and you can go to all different parts of the city and meet different people, that's a unique experience that a ton of people in the country don't get. Like if you live in a secluded community, or if you live in the suburbs and you're not around people who are going to show you different things or who are going to have different backgrounds, you're gonna be naive in general and less knowledgeable about other people's situations and less understanding of other people's situations, because everyone that you live around and everyone that you know has the same exact background. They all grew up the same way. But when you live in a city like Chicago and you live where we did and grow up around the people that we grew up, everyone's background is different. Everyone's upbringing is different. And the thing that I find really interesting is everyone's motivation is different too. Like if you ask every person, what makes you keep going every day? What makes you wake up and get out of bed and go to school and go to work and go to the gym later and go to practice? What makes you do all those things? How, because everyone has a different story. Everyone in the city has a different story. And, some stories are harsher and some stories are more difficult to hear than others. But everyone has a story. And to hear those stories, to hear everyone's side of things, it really makes you realize, not everyone has it the same way. Not everyone has it as easy as some of us might have it. And the lengths that those people go through to get to where they are it's inspiring, honestly. Like it's very, very inspiring. And, I had friends, all the time throughout high school who, they don't get to go back to the same amount of luxuries. And, they just didn't have the same support as someone like I did. But it didn't deter them from being in the gym the same amount of hours. It pushed them to work harder, and they were just as happy as I was. Right. And it's just amazing that, if you give people the right resources and you give people, an opportunity like After School Matters provides, just giving them opportunity, then, those people, that's all they need. Some people, that's all they need is the one opportunity to discover what they love. And once you discover what you love, like there's no stopping people. Like if you really fall in love with something and you really become motivated, nothing else matters, right? You'll work it as hard as you possibly can against all odds to make it in what your field is. And, I fell in love with sports my whole life. I fell in love with, doing this podcasting stuff like doing this content creation. And, things are really difficult. It's very hard to make it in sports. It's very hard to make it in anyone's respective field, but given the right opportunities and understanding that you really love it, man, it can take you everywhere. But as kind of a long-winded response to your question, but it's just, it's really, it's a lot to unpack, because I can't even describe how important being from the city and meeting all these different people and being around different walks of life has affected me as a person. I mean, I'm sure you can agree. Like, it's a hard thing to put into words, but it's almost like your identity has been changed a lot by what you have seen, who you have met, and the things that you have experienced by, just growing up in a place like this. And I'm forever grateful to, have some of the opportunities that I had at Lane Tech and in elementary school due to some, programs like After School Matters that gave me the ability to meet new people, experience different things. And it's just, those things are so formative, especially for people at a young age, that I like when I have kids, it's exactly what I want them to do, is just get involved, get the opportunities, and, meet as many people as possible, because everyone has a different story, and it's good to hear as many of those stories as possible.
Nah, 100%. And I like a lot of the key parts that you hit on. And, we kind of talked about our childhood. You and I met, well, man, we were probably like 5-6 years old, something like that. We both went to, Kevin, I don't remember exactly where he went to elementary school, but it was a Chicago public school, if I'm not mistaken. And you look at a school like that. And for me personally, I always talk about it, and hey, it's no disrespect. It's no disrespect to Chicago public schools. They do great things. They don't do amazing things, but they do great things at times. My sisters, my cousins on my mom's side, everybody else, they had the luxury of being at a Catholic school where everything was pretty much brought to you and handed to you, and kind of you having all of this equipment, new basketballs, new footballs, new pencils, new books, new desks, everything, AC, air conditioning, in every single room, which I'm not going to sit here and act like my middle school didn't have air conditioning, but there were certain rooms you felt it. You felt the summer heat, you felt the winter. I was one of those kids, I'm 10 years younger than my sister, so I got sent to public school. Is what it is, but I wouldn't take anything away. I wouldn't do it over again any differently. The experiences I had there, and me and you talked about it, we went to Sunday school together because we obviously, we needed to get that in order to do whatever religious background we had to do at that time. I'm not quite sure why we did it, but we did it. We did it, and we talked about Bears football every Sunday, and it was a great time in the back of the class with Kevin Lapka. But it was something to where, you get those experiences, and not a lot of kids get that opportunity. I even look at CCD as something to where, maybe it's not after school matters, but it's something to where a kid on a Sunday could go somewhere and have a safe place, and we're not bringing religion into this. We're not bringing anything into that, but it's still the same conversation of, I had a lot of buddies who, while me and Kevin were sitting in, a classroom on a Sunday learning about God and all this other stuff, we had a lot of my buddies, that I grew up specifically, getting into drugs and getting into other stuff. And I'm talking like the 5th grade, 6th grade is like when this stuff is happening. And a big part of that is because, their families just allowed them to do what they do. And they didn't really care. You just kind of, you came back in the house when the street lights turned on, and what you did from, let's say, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 p.m., it didn't really matter to a lot of families. And I think that's where after school matters. And not even that, just like you said, being at Lane Tech, me being at Northtown, being a part of something special, being a part of an organization, and really just a team that believes in you. Ben Needich, I'm sure he's tuning in and out of this while he's teaching right now. That man saved my life from countless of days where I can't even get into it. But that man, kept me out of the street. That man kept me out of my own stuff after the death of my dad and the death of a few of my buddies that I grew up with. And, without football, without baseball, without Ben Needich, I really don't know where I would be right now. So Kevin, to tie that all in, playing at Lane Tech, such a prestigious school when it comes to athletics, and, as much as they wanted you to be one of their lockdown wide receivers, what was it like, playing at Lane Tech and just kind of having that mentality of, this is a place that expects me, like you said, at Ohio State, that expects you to be the best you possible. And they give you the resources to do so. They let you go to the cages late at night. They let you hit the field whenever you wanted. What's that kind of like, knowing that, not only a school, but a group of people actually have your back?
It's huge, man. It's huge. And the number one thing you have is your teammates, and your teammates have your back. And that was the number one thing I learned is I grew a very tight-knit relationship with all my teammates. All of us were just, ready to after school grind. We're gonna stay at the school for 4 more hours, and then we'll all take the bus home together, and we'll get home late at night. And guess what? We're gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and do it the next morning, right? That's just what the grind was. And the thing we all had to understand too is where we come from in the CPS athletes, aside from basketball, really do not have it easy when it comes to, again, the equipment that's provided for them. And, Lane Tech was lucky enough to have a good, booster system that gave us a little bit of money that we could use on, nice facilities. Obviously, we got Kerrywood Cubs Field. I mean, one of the nicest, if not the nicest high school baseball field in the entire state.
Not to cut you off. The wall's a little too high. You've robbed me a few times, and it was even at Wrigley Field, the wall is not that high, Carrie. You can let me have a couple dingers here and there, but you robbed me of a couple of those.
It's pretty rude of him, honestly, because I had one game where I hit 2 home runs over that fence in the same game. But if you look at like St. Rita or a Brother Rice, and you go to their fields, short fence, short porch, tiny, like 300 to left. And I'm like, no wonder these guys are leading the state in home runs. Like, we're hitting bombs that are going like 380 and they're bouncing off a wall. Like, 100%. Come on, Carrie.
Got the green monster over on Lane Tech on Addison.
What the heck? It was impossible to hit a home run there. But again, very grateful for that. But CPS athletes in general, like, we all understood once we got into our junior and senior years that, like, if we want to take our game to the next level, it was very difficult for us. CPS athletes, they go under the radar. And I talked to a lot of coaches. And when you are trying to get recruited for the college game out of the CPS, it's not just, these scouts are going to come to your games. Like, it's sometimes the case in basketball when you have the powerhouses like Whitney Young and Simeon and Morgan Park, which are some of the best basketball schools in the country. Like, that's not the case for baseball. The best baseball schools in the country are all in LA. They're all in California. They're all in Florida and Texas, right? And football is the same way, Texas, Florida, California. 100%. Like, it's just not the same in Illinois, but that doesn't mean there's not good athletes. Like, there are a ton of extremely good athletes in the CPS, and all of them, every single one of them knows how to grind. And that's the one common denominator is they never had it easy. They know how to grind. But in order to get noticed by college coaches, they wouldn't just show up to your games. I think I had maybe one scout my entire career at Lane Tech showed up to one of my high school games. The only way you could get noticed as an athlete out of high school in the CPS in Chicago was you had to pay money to go to showcases. I had to pay like $800 if I wanted to go to a perfect game showcase and get my face in front of 300 scouts, right?
Pinch hit or something, you know what I mean?
And there's no guarantees at that point. Like, Chicago athletes, especially in those sports, baseball, basketball, soccer, even, they do not have it easy. It's hard to get noticed. And a lot of people don't have the financial resources to get noticed, right? Like, they don't have $300 to just go downstate Illinois and play in a showcase for a day. They don't have all this money to do all these things that's going to get you in front of a head coach. And we all knew that we had it difficult in that way. And it didn't matter how good we were. Like, I had kids on my team, myself included, who could have played D2, D1 baseball if they were given a situation like some of the suburban kids had. Like, I know so many athletes who wanted to play, could have played, and didn't, not because they weren't good enough, but because they didn't have the resources to get noticed. And it is not their fault. It's just, it hurts to see, because you see people get that opportunity and they take it and they go crazy and they play really, really well. And they put their hard work and effort into it every second. And they're waking up at 5 a.m. 3 times a week, and they're leaving at 7 p.m. They're doing 2-a-days. They're working over the summer on Saturdays and Sundays when they're not playing. They're at the gym. They're at the cages. They're working hard, and they're working 10 times harder than anyone else in the goddamn state. And the person next to them that's working out an hour a day, but has, $1,000 to give to a scout to come watch them, is going to get noticed over the guy who's busting their ass. And it's just, it's, I know you've dealt with the same thing. It's a hard thing to go through. It's a hard thing to go through, because I had aspirations to play. I wanted to play. And when it came down to it, like, I had schools that offered me, and it just wasn't what I wanted. And I felt like I sold myself short, maybe, by not trying to get out to more showcases, or not trying to play for a better travel team that'll get me in front of schools like that. But it nonetheless, like, it just teaches you to work hard, man. And I know for a fact, if I wasn't in the CPS, if I wasn't in the Chicago school system with the brothers that I have on the field, there's no way my work ethic now would be what it is without playing baseball.
100%. And we talk about guys like Ben Wilson, and I think that's a big one, to where, Wyatt Simeon is 25 retired. Why is it one of the most prestigious numbers that you could potentially wear? Why did Derrick Rose wear 25? And it's because of guys like that, guys who, we've talked about it time and time again on the pod, and just me and you, backstage, just talking throughout life. You helped me through a lot of stuff throughout high school that I was going with guys I grew up with, just, horrific things happening, all the time, it feels like. And that's just one example of people that I know. You think about how many people it's actually happening to on a daily basis. You're looking at kids getting gunned down, kids getting killed, kids on the corner. We're talking about, it's a darker part of this, this conversation, but you're talking about 3 a.m. There's a 5-year-old girl that gets shot on the corner of the street by herself, but the question to me is, like, one, it's a horrible thing to happen, but why is there a 3-year-old girl on the corner at 3 a.m., not in her house, not in bed, not with her family? There's a lot of questions that tie into that. And I bring that up for that specific reason, because you even mentioned it. You hit the nail on the head. Now, everybody and their mama who's watching this right now that knows me knows in high school, if it curved or it slid or it changed, I couldn't hit it. That's what it was. If it was a fastball, if it was a fastball, it was gone. If it wasn't, man, we're gonna try to run up the count. But it's something to where I understood at a very young age that I was the fastest kid in the world, and that's not me being cocky. That's not me over exaggerating. Kevin knew I was fast. I had long hair. I had glasses. I remember in a citywide track meet, there were 3 kids next to me. It's like 6th grade, bro. And these kids are straight from the South Side, purebred athletes. And, we're looking at guys who are 6 feet tall in the 6th grade. And I'm wearing jeans and a hoodie. And everybody's looking at me like, these kids are from Catholic schools. These kids are from public schools, all walks of life. It's the entire city. And we're looking at it like that. I win the race. And when I go to state, and the reason I'm bringing that up, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, I want to
talk your talk, Mike.
It was 6th grade. It doesn't matter. But, the point of that being, you brought it up, what kids in the suburbs face. That was city. I met kids from the West Side, South Side, East Side, which I didn't even know was a thing as a kid until I got a little bit older. I thought it was all just water. But it was something to where once I got to state, I saw these kids who had these rubber bands, had these trainers with them, had this equipment. I did it at Wells Park. my guy, and God bless him. I hope he's still kicking. I hope he's still around doing his thing. Great trainer. He was a 300-pound man teaching me how to do track and field. Why? I have no idea, but he was great at what he did. And I don't know how long it's been since he ran, but Coach Mike was an amazing guy. And he was all I had, and you even talked about it in the winter, though. Unfortunately, because it's Chicago public, schools and Chicago public parks, you don't have that opportunity to work out in the winter. And that was for me to where, and you understand football, baseball. I played lacrosse, whether anybody wants to make fun of me for it in the chat, it's perfectly fine. It was super lame, but I did my thing. And you know what, though, in the winter, I lost by the beginning of the season. You're at where you are. And by the end, you want to be at a different place. And that's with any sport. You want to be better. But then I would lose all of that because you don't have these opportunities in the winter to continue to grow and continue to get better. And a big part of that is because we don't have the resources. We don't have, and I'm talking to some of these suburban kids, they have indoor facilities with tracks, and in between those tracks are a football field. Like, think of Lane Tech Stadium, but indoors. Like, that is at a middle school, bro. Like, that is insane to even fathom in my mind right now. And I'm like, it's the whole state. So obviously it's not just the burbs. It's, we're talking about the boons. Like, we're talking about far out in Illinois. But, it's that same conversation of, there's so many kids who are, once the season's over, you're left astray. And I'm not going to name drop. And I want to, ask you on your opinion on it. I've had a couple kids. I'm currently one of the coaches of Northtown Academy baseball. I used to play there in high school, and I got the honor to be a part of that this year. And we had an amazing season. It was a lot of fun. But I saw myself in a couple kids, and, I had this conversation with this kid, and, long story short, he's having a rough day. Like, a very rough day. We're talking 0 for 4, just looked pissed off at the plate, wouldn't even swing the bat. And I didn't really understand why. And you look at a lot of teams in the burbs, and, like you said, at these showcases, you're getting benched, you're getting squabbled, and not even having a conversation about it. And I take the kid aside and we have this conversation. I just found out that one of his best friends had just got shot like an hour before. And this kid's a 15-year-old kid. And we're talking about, like what's going through his mind process, how I can relate to it, and my personal experiences of everything we went through. And you don't see that. You don't see that in other places. And that's why, the reason I'm bringing all of it up is when you look at a place like After School Matters, who actually takes the time not only to take care of you, to feed you, to give you an opportunity to do, whether it's, art or whatever extracurricular activity. I said that wrong. But whatever it may be, whether it be sports or something else, music, they care about you, and there's people there to talk to you. And Kevin, for you, we grew up, and you said something very important. And when you said, and I remember doing it too, we get on the bus or we get on the train and we all go home together. But one kid's stop is probably going to be in a good neighborhood, and then the other kid rides it all the way down on the red line into a very crappy neighborhood and has to go through things that we might not have to. So for you, how important is it, to have those experiences with your brothers, with your teammates, and just with anybody in the school? You're talking about guys who, when they go home, it's them versus the world. You know what I mean? So to be able to understand that you not only have teammates, but you have, teachers back, social workers backs, like, how important is that for you when it comes to Chicago public schools?
Those relationships are crucial, man. I mean, that's how you build, a good team. That's how you build a good personality, and that's how you build like lifelong relationships. And that's how you save some people, man. Like, those people who, they don't want to go home after practice because they love the game, but they also love being your teammate. They also love being around you. They love being a part of a team. And that's why, whether it's, music, right? You're in a band, or, you're in any sort of club or something, man. Like, you join that club because you're interested in it, but you fall in love with it because of the people that are in it, right? Like, that's why the best teams that win championships at any level of sport all have the best culture, right? They all have the best culture, and it's a culture based off of love and relationships and fighting for your teammates, right? Like, as Bears fans, we can attest to this in a sense, because what I saw last night when Justin Fields got nearly decapitated by a Browns player was all 6 of his offensive linemen coming to his defense. You didn't see that last year, right? And those are things that when you go through the hardships of becoming a winner, and you go through the hardships of growing up and in practice, we practice in the hallways at Lane Tech in the wintertime. And, we're doing the most strenuous ab workouts of our life for my coach, my favorite coach of all time, Robin Ahmed, who currently works at the Clubhouse Athletics. He was my sophomore coach, freshman and sophomore year, won championship back-to-back years, city championship. We would go through hell in these hallways, man. And it built a bond between us that you would never break. Like when you go through blood, sweat, and tears with your teammates and, you know, with these people, like that's a bond that you'll carry with them forever. Like I don't talk to a lot of my teammates as much anymore, but if they needed anything, I'd be there for them immediately. If they texted me right now and say, hey, I need you to pick me up from down here, like something went wrong, boom, I'd be there. Or I need a little bit of support, I'd help them out any possible way I can, because you went through, you know, you went through the hardships with them, and that'll always carry with you. And, you know, that's why a lot of times, like in the winters, right, you talked about the winters and you talked about not having the facilities, right? And, you know, later, once I joined the travel team, we started to get a little bit of facilities.
Right.
But even then, like, we would text each other every Friday, every night, and be like, yo, can we get into this gym tonight? Can we get into this batting cage? Like, we would all have a group chat, and we would just try to get out there and be together and hit together and swing together and just be in the same building and learn from each other. And it was just really hard to do because you just didn't have those resources. Like it was really hard to find a batting cage to hit at in the wintertime. Without paying like $30 to go to like Bash or something, you know, right? There was just no place where we could just go and just play ball, right? And that's why the moment, you know, if there was a 50 degree day in February, we'd be out there. If it was 45 degrees and snowing,
everyone's got shorts on, bro.
Like, we're out there in shorts. We got our gloves. We're taking swings. We're playing football. We're playing basketball, man. Like, and there's something special about that, man. There's just something special about that. And I don't know how to describe it, but those were some of my favorite moments, is the moment we could, you know, be together and hoop together and play football and play baseball and just be out there as teammates. We took it at any possible moment we could. And those are just that bond, like, you know, going back to your original question, and just knowing that you have the support of your teammates and your coaches. You know, I had some bad coaches, but, you know, I had some really good ones too, who I knew would be there for me. And look, that happens everywhere. You know, you're going to get some coaches that, you know, you just don't align with. They're not bad people. It's just their coaching style may not align with, you know, the way you want to be coached. And it takes both sides to kind of conform to that. But just knowing that you have the support of people who are going to be there for you, you know, in programs like this, like athletics, it's so important. And that's why I encourage everyone, you know, who's at a young age, whether you're not athletic, you know, okay, join, you know, pick up a musical instrument, man, pick up something else. Like, just having the support of those people, knowing it's a place that you can talk to people, knowing that there's going to be people there who relate to you because you're doing the same thing and who can talk through things with you, is just super, super, super important. I encourage everyone, again, like, even if you're older, right? Even if you're older, but you're looking for a community to join, it's never too late to pick something up. It's never too late to join a group, join a club, join something where, you know, you have the same people who, you know, want to talk about these things and can talk about your life with you, you know, and those things are really important.
And I think you hit on that too. And that was one of the parts before we get you out of here, I really wanted to hit on. We talk about what happens after school, and a big thing of why after school matters so much is because, you know, let's not even talk about after school. Let's talk about after high school. Let's talk about when it's all said and done, not on every single, you know, Monday through Friday type basis. What happens on the weekends, who knows? But for the kids who don't fall through the cracks and end up graduating, some of them have no idea what's going to happen after high school. You know, you think, you know, and me and you have had this conversation many times throughout all the winters, and not to get off topic, but I'm sure you've experienced it when you have to run in the middle of the hallway, because if you run on the sides, you're going to get clipped by a door of a teacher that opens.
Or a locker.
Yeah, 100%. I've gotten clipped. I remember Miss Wilberding, shout out Miss Wilberding, wherever you are, woo-woo. She destroyed me. Like, and I already had a concussion. I shouldn't have been running. Definitely tapped into my second one. I saw God that day. I saw God. I saw my dad. It was a great reunion. But, you know, that's neither here nor there, Kev. But it's a conversation of, you know, you working with these guys and really understanding, like, this is where I'm going to be after high school, that I have these people, that I have these outlets. A lot of people, you know, for the people who don't, you know, some people, they because of their experience, and it's not a shot. It's not saying everybody needs to be the happiest go lucky guy in the world, the most, you know, friendly guy. You don't have to have the most friends in the world, but a lot of people, because of their experiences as young kids, you know, they're very enclosed, and they're very just not vocal. and I guess is the word, introvert is the better word for that. And you look at people like that and them going into life, entering a 9 to 5, they really don't feel like they have a place. And that resolves into going into the street and doing whatever happens out there. And it's an ugly world. And, I've been a part of it, not firsthand, but I've had a lot of family members, and I've had a lot of, friends who just, kind of dabbled in stuff they had no business dabbling in. Like, these are intelligent people. And these are people that you see so much potential in, like so much potential. I know guys, God rest their souls, I won't name drop them, but some of the most intelligent people I've ever met, some of the most athletic individuals that would give both Mike Hughes and Kevin Lapka the work, but fell victims to the street. So for you, when it comes down to, places like After School Matters and just athletics or extracurricular activities like that, when you're looking at it from that perspective and understanding that not only are you learning stuff to keep you going through high school, but stuff you can bring moving forward after high school, how important is that?
You'll hear this a lot, Mike, and it can get cliche at times, but there's a lot of people who were from, the inner city who weren't as fortunate as others, and they'll end up saying later in life, basketball saved me, baseball saved me, music saved me, art saved me, right? And they say that because it allowed them to fall in love with something and allowed them to, do something after school and stay out of trouble. And not only was it, it wasn't just a 4-year thing, It's not like, oh, they just played basketball for 4 years and stopped. Like, that was something that became a lifelong love of theirs, if not like the one thing, that they love most, and that's why you'll hear people say, this saved me, that saved me. And those things are only possible with programs like After School Matters, to give them an opportunity, because, as you kind of alluded to, there's guys out there who are more athletic than we are, who aren't even getting an opportunity. And the moment they get that opportunity and they're able to, bounce a ball and realize they're really good, they're able to swing a bat and realize they're really good, they're able to, play an instrument, play the piano and realize they've got that innate talent, like, boom, piano saved me, basketball saved me. And those are like, throughout the rest of life, like, it gives you something to dedicate your mind to, gives you something to take your mind off of when things aren't going well. It's the most important thing, that someone can do is fall in love with something like that. And, with programs like After School Matters, again, it's not just the 4-year thing in high school or in elementary school, really is, up until you're a senior. It's what you learn and the things that you get involved in that space, it carries with you for life. The people you meet, they carry with you for life. The values you learn from being involved in something like that, it's a lifelong thing. So people need to understand the greater impacts of that, right? It's not just temporary. It's a long-term thing, and it will have lifelong impacts on you that will stay with you the day you die, just by getting one opportunity. You give a kid one opportunity, it'll change their life forever. And how many programs how many things in this world give somebody the opportunity to change their life forever just by giving them the opportunity? So that's why After School Matters is so important. And that's why what you're doing here today, Mike, is really, really important. Just preaching that message, and just getting the word out that all it takes is one opportunity, and, things could be different forever. So appreciate you, Mike, again, for doing this. This is amazing. You're really making a difference, trying to make a difference here in the city, make a difference in the world. And, I hope the people watching and listen to this little, thing that we just did for 30 minutes can learn a little something about, how not everyone that listens to this, Mike, is going to be from the city of Chicago. There's going to be people listening to this who, might have had it easier. And there's nothing against people who had it easier, right? Like,
100%.
Great for them. Like, there's nothing against that, but just to be conscious and understanding of, other people's situations and, just how it's a little bit difficult for some other people, especially here in the city of Chicago, just to make them conscious, then they can donate. And, if they understand what we just preached for the past 30 minutes, they'll hopefully, be grateful, and then, just be a little bit empathetic of other people's situations and give to a program like After School Matters. That's really important. So yeah, just great job, man. I really appreciate you doing this. You're really making a difference, man.
100%, bro. I truly appreciate you, man, and everything you said. But yeah, to hit on that last point before we get you out, I definitely agree with you. I think, and I even attest to it. I'm from the Northwest side. I grew up, being kind of not a troublemaker, but definitely was in certain neighborhoods I shouldn't have been in, with some pretty cool guys that I grew up with, guys that I would call my best friends to this day. Some of my brothers, and I've experienced firsthand what the South Side is like, what the West Side is like, and what all these different places are like throughout high school and throughout middle school and all these other, even after. And I preach this to the choir. Kev, me and you grew up in a very, similar neighborhood. We're not too far from each other, one bus away, but you know, it's something to where, you know, we know all these people, but we don't experience this. And that's the difference between all of it. Like, I don't, at the end of the day, wake up and say, I live on 79th. I don't wake up at the end of the day and say, I live on 64th, or I live over here, or I live in Cabrini Green, or wherever it may be. You know, I don't live over there. And that's what it is at the end of the day is, you know, I know everything about it. I know, you know, what it's like. I know how it feels to lose people a certain way, but I don't know what it's like to be stuck in those places. And I say the word stuck not as a negative, but as, you know, something to where, you know, this is the hand you were dealt. And you say it all the time, Kevin. I love when you say it. It's how you react to situations that you're given. And sometimes there's nothing you can do. You can't react the same way because you don't have the opportunities to get out. You can be, like we've talked about, Derrick Rose, one of the best hoopers in the city, a young Dwayne Wade. You know, we're looking at a Ben Wilson and other guys like that, Patrick Beverly. You know, there's a bunch of guys. There's a bunch of guys right now, you know, that we can name from Chicago that are just true hoopers. You know, my friend Candace Parker, you know, I talk to her pretty frequently about stuff like this. She grew up in Chicago, and, you know, even though she was born in St. Louis, she understands what it's like to kind of be around here. Even though she went to school in Naperville, she understands what it's like to play against certain places who aren't as, you know, foundationally set as everybody else. You know, they are not, you know, established programs. They are not great programs. They don't have the most equipment. They're not the best funded, you know, and I'll leave it at this, you know, not to, you know, talk down on certain schools that I went to, but when I hear that Lane Tech has boosters, I promise you, if you walked into any of my former schools and said the word booster, we don't know what that means. And that's what it is, though, is like, not every school is funded, whether it's, you know, on the west side or the south side or the north side. It's just, it is what it is. Chicago Public Schools is very, very diverse. And that's why we're doing this today. So, Kev, again, I appreciate you for taking the time coming out here, man. It's been a blast for real.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
Before we get this one going, I'm really excited to have her on here. Carolina Teague. I met her through the ASAP network. She is one of the best in the business, without a doubt. GOE Spurs Insider for 1250 AM, 103.3 FM. That's just a little title, but she is far more than just that. She does amazing things for not only the San Antonio Spurs, but she is a diehard Bears fan for life. She does a lot of things and growing up in this city. We wanted to bring her on. So, Carolina, thank you for coming on the show today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. I look like I rolled out of bed, but my hair's just wavy, you know? Really really good. Now, I do want to say, too, that I am now the Cowboys analyst for 97.5 ESPN Houston. So add that to the resume.
We're doing big things, and we're doing even better things. But, you know, to tie into that, you know, there's a lot of different things I can ask you, from, you know, being a radio host and to being at such a high level already. But to kind of start it off from the beginning, obviously, you tell me all the time it's South Side till you die, and you love Chicago for what it is. I'm North Side, so, like, it is what it is. You know, I don't got beef with you, but I got beef with you. You know what I mean? But
we could get there. We could take it there if we had to.
We could take it there, but I don't think you want me to do that. I think I'll win. But with that being said, you know, Carolina, growing up, you know, in Chicago, what was that kind of like for your time being there? Obviously, now you spent a lot of time in Texas and San Antonio. But really, when it comes down to your roots, what was it? What was your experience like?
Yeah, so I had a good, my parents kept me really sheltered, but my surroundings, I grew up on the south side. It was a lot of crime, and I remember there was always robberies around me. People were always getting shot, guns were always going off. My elementary school, it had graffiti on it, so it was considered tagged up, and that was elementary school. There was always crimes even happening in elementary, so that's what I remember as far as the environment is concerned. But as far as my childhood, it felt really, my family just kept me very sheltered. And, I enjoyed all the things that we all enjoyed, watching the Bulls growing up, getting the paper in on a Sunday, and eating all my favorite foods like Beggar's Pizza. I know you guys on the north side, y'all like Home Run In or something like that. Some irrelevant pizza company is what I was.
We got Diogs, but we ain't going to disrespect. We ain't going to disrespect Diogs over here.
I know Beggars is like my favorite out of all of Chicago. So we had that. I like eating Portillo's, Harold's Chicken. So I got to eat all my favorite foods still. I got to grow up with my family. I got to go to Sox games. So I had a good time.
100%. And, we kind of talked about it. We just had Kevin on the show and we kind of talked about him and I growing up together. And we kind of were in a very similar situation. Like my family is very heavily Irish and Italian. Like they stick together. A lot of them are cops. A lot of them are firefighters, first responders. My sister is a first responder. So my home situation was always pretty stable, for the most part. My dad passed away, so totally different conversation. But for the majority, it was always a stable situation. And there's a lot of people that Kevin and I grew up with to where, we see them 9 to 5, working out, just getting our reps in for our baseball teams, football teams. But after that, we really never truly experienced those kind of environments. For you, can you share any stories that you have kind of just talking on, some people who didn't have that sheltered home and some people that you think, were as the best in the business, but just didn't ever get that opportunity?
You mean like as far as like growing up in that area?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know anybody in my area that really didn't get opportunities, but I do know, like, I grew up in the Pose and Robbins area, so Dwayne Wade's from there, and so is Kiki Palmer, people like that. And I feel like I don't know, that's what I remember. Like, I always look at who's from my area, it's them. But I don't know, I just remember just like a lot of robberies happening, and pretty much we really didn't have a way out, only because some of the kids didn't have food sometimes. Some of the kids were like our neighbors across the street, they lived in an attic trying to survive, and some people just really had it a very, very hard upbringing. And I remember seeing our house got vandalized, like 2 houses up, and it burned to the ground because there was just a lot of vandalizing, robberies all around me.
100%. And when we talk about that and we talk about these situations, there's a lot of kids, they fear going home. And Kevin and I were just talking about that, and to kind of tie that in with you, you and I, you've been down my throat having this conversation about going back to school. And I start back school Tuesday, so shout out Carolina Teague. But on a serious note, it's this conversation of, a lot of people aren't going to give you that opportunity unless you have that piece of paper. And in a place I could speak, being here my whole life in 22 years, I had so many teachers time and time again telling you that, for a lack of a better word, that we weren't going to be shit. And sometimes we deserved it. Sometimes we made teachers cry. Sometimes we were just bad little kids, and we sometimes we definitely deserved it. But more times than not, I knew some of the most talented guys in the world who never just got that opportunity because every time they tried to care, teachers gave them a reason not to. And that's why we're here today talking about After School Matters, kind of a program just to give kids a chance after school to kind of do extracurricular activities, whether it be sports, art, whatever it may be, just stuff in their community, learning about things, political things. It's a great thing. So for you, what does that mean to you to know that, when we were growing up, it was very different? And obviously, you're from the 90s, I'm from the early 2000s, and it was still very similar in that conversation of like, teachers, you either made it or you didn't. They weren't going to put in that extra effort. So to have kind of a community and kind of have After School Matters, being able to give kids a chance that they're not going to get in the classroom, what does that mean for you?
Oh, that means everything. I mean, you talked about the teachers saying you really don't have an opportunity. It was different for me growing up on the South Side because there was a lot of crime around us. And like I said, our elementary school had graffiti. And I think a lot of the teachers knew that. So they stressed out the importance to us all the time that we need to go to college and we need to get an education, because that was our only way out of the South Side, is kind of how they painted education towards us. So I honestly think if it wasn't for going to school in Chicago in elementary and then putting the fundamentals in my head, I probably wouldn't have gotten a degree. But I remember all the things my teachers told me in elementary, how hard it was outside of the school environment. And they were stressed. If we don't get an education, we're not going to leave the South Side of Chicago. We're going to fall victim to all the things surrounding us. And unfortunately, the after school programs, we didn't really have that many resources. All they had was like minimal. Like we had Girl Scouts, but we only had like one meeting because we didn't have those resources. So I like the fact that After School Matters program is, doing those things and stressing the importance of that, because sometimes, like in the South Side or in the North Side or wherever you are, we don't have the means to have those resources. Our family doesn't have money. Sometimes our family doesn't have food. And just to be able to show that you care and you want those after school programs to help stress the value of education in sports, I feel like that's amazing.
100%. And I think, one of the big things, and you and I have talked about it all the time, is, minorities getting jobs, especially in the sports world. And, this stream today is far more than just, who can catch a ball and who can run a 4 flat in a 40-meter race. But, it's something to the conversation of, at the end of the day, you need to be able to have these grades. You need to be able to have that piece of paper. And sometimes that's not even, that's not enough. It really isn't, especially in today's world. So for you, as a minority, can you kind of speak on that and kind of just speak on, the importance for these kids to kind of get an idea of what the real world is like, not just expecting things to be, how it should be, is to where if you meet the credentials, then you should be able to get them.
Yeah, and unfortunately that's life. We as minorities, we can work our hardest, and people say that we're pulling the race card, but the reality is, people have told me dead to my face, it's because of my race that I'm not getting a job in sports because I don't fit a demographic or I don't fit their brand. And it's really unfortunate because I've gone to school and I have all the credentials behind me, but somebody will look you in your face and tell you you're not it. Because you don't fit our brand. So, it's important for minorities to have that education behind us, because even though I'm not, for somebody, I can still find a job in sports behind the scenes. I can still find a job doing what I love to do somewhere else, even if it's not being face value or honor talent. I definitely want to do that. But I know with my education and with my experience, I could find my path in a different arena if I choose to. But there is a lot of, unfair balances in the media industry. But what we're doing right now at my age and in your age and our generation is we're trying to break those boundaries down. That's why when these kids who are doing the After School Matters program get to the age that we're at and at the level that we're at, hopefully, and our goal is they're not going to have those problems anymore, because we're going to be in a position of power and we understand where they're coming from, and we know the value of putting minority faces at the forefront, and or not even minority faces, like just going off your credentials and not exactly what your skin tone is.
100%. And I keep saying 100% every time you finish it, but you're putting it perfectly. I've met a couple guys, and it's not, to name drop any specific places, but a couple networks and organizations that I've been a part of, to where, and Carolina, you keep hitting me on it, as good as, everybody might think I may be at this. I need that degree at the end of the day, but I have had conversations with certain people to where, even without this degree, I feel like because I'm a white male, I've been offered certain spots to where even, it's a great offer, and I'm like, damn, like that's what's up, like that's dope, and I'm happy about it. But then I look back at how many people behind me have this degree that deserve it more than I do, or who put in more work than I did. And it's kind of to that same conversation to where it's like I appreciate the offer, but I don't always take them, because I'm like, one, I don't think I'm ready for that, and two, it's I think there's so many people behind me that are probably more deserving of that. And having that conversation about After School Matters and kind of getting kids ready for the real world, and them being able to sit around and have these political conversations, far more than just kicking a ball around or shooting basketball for a little bit. But it's something to where I think that changes the next generation far more than just sports and far more than just jobs, because you're looking at it from, and I've had personal experiences with a lot of guys who, they don't have a place to go when they go home. So they stay outside, the street lights come on and we all go inside, and a lot of people stay out. And that's when, horrific things happen. That's when kids get into stuff that they shouldn't be getting into, grown man stuff is what they'll say. At the age of 14, 15 years old is when, gangs start corrupting kids. So for you to have these kids having a space, not just what they're learning, but just a space to be in this time and age, how important is that? And to really just sitting here and understanding that, some kids, it's at school or it's in the street.
I think it's very important. The more people around them that are saying that this is the direction that they need to go, it'll keep them out of the street life. They're more likely to be out of the street life if their surroundings show them, hey, look, this is another option. Or if there's just that one mentor that says, hey, look, I can pick you up from after school and we can go do the program together. And that, could save somebody's life as far as the trajectory of where their life goes. Because at the end of the day, in Chicago, like I said, we had little to zero resources, and just having that one person reach out or one program reach out and say, this is, the direction you can go in. You don't have to choose this alternative path. That could change your entire life. So I'm like, you're stressing the importance of that. I am too. And I know you said, about your education and stuff. It's valuable because it can change people's lives. So I think it's a great cause, and I'm really thankful that you are spreading awareness for it. And I'm also thankful that you invited me to speak on my experience, because this is a reality for a lot of us.
Carolina, we appreciate you coming on today. It's always a blast. If before you get out of here, I want you to specifically to plug everywhere everybody can find you.
Okay, I don't have my makeup done, so don't judge me, but I'm going to be on ESPN 97.5 Houston, and I'm going to be doing a Cowboys analysis because, it's Texas country over here. And then, of course, I do Spurs analysis. Spurs season is coming back up, so I'll be doing Spurs analysis for ESPN San Antonio, SA Sports Star. It's 94.1 FM. And I also do ring announcing, and I'm also a writer for Forward Access, Pounding the Rock for SB Nation, and sportsastoldbyagirl.com. So keep an eye out for me, and I really appreciate you, Mike, for bringing me on. Southside for life.
Carolina, we appreciate you. It's definitely Northside for life. I don't know who told Carolina it was Southside for life, but we love and appreciate her as always for always hopping on. It's all jokes aside. And I definitely did change my outfits. If you guys, were wondering that, I'm sure you weren't. But, today's episode is all about giving back to After School Matters. We are not getting any money from this. We are not taking care of any of the proceeds. So if you haven't already, please donate if you haven't gotten a chance. Here's the link right below. ASAP and myself, we do not handle any of the money. We do not handle any of it. It is specifically going straight to this link where you can donate right here. If you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, the link is provided in the description below. All right, here, if you haven't already, take a screenshot of it. Do it whenever you can. We have no business with handling any of the financial aspects of that, so you don't have to worry about that whatsoever. It goes straight to this link, which is their professional handle to be able to handle donations. So with that being said, I do want to say before we get out of here how much I truly appreciate you guys. Brennen Davis, Patrick Wisdom, James Triantos, Liam Spence, Carolina Teague, Kevin Lapka, Rob Scott, Jay Ness for helping me produce this, After School Matters for approving it and allowing us to be able to do this today. It means the world to me to be able to give back and to be able to have this platform, to be able to be bigger than what we are. And hopefully we're going to be able to do this a lot more. Hopefully it's going to be something that's going to be a lot more exciting, and we're going to be able to do this kind of maybe on a regular basis, maybe every couple of months, maybe once a month or a couple times a month. We can have these kind of nonprofit type shows or these program shows where we can really just run up the board and really change the ways that we view things. And I think, to recap this episode, if you haven't seen it already, Brennen Davis couldn't be here today. Obviously he just got recalled back to Iowa, hit a home run in his first game back. So shout out to my dog, shout out to my brother doing his thing. But he did have this to say. It's super exciting to always hear from Brennen. Brennen, when asked kind of about how much baseball means to him, said, I think it was a huge part of my childhood. From a young age, I always had sports to look forward to, and those bonds that you create when you're grinding with your guys are the strongest there are. I also have some of my best memories from when I was little and how much fun I had on those teams. Some of those guys are still my closest friends to this day. And I think that's an amazing point to hit on. And kind of speaking about After School Matters, he has a comment right after that. We kind of asked him on how important After School Matters is to not only this city, but to Chicago and to the entire world, to be honest. And he had to respond to that was, I think we should do everything in our power to help organizations like this thrive. When kids have something like sports and a team, and it induces structure into their life, and teaches individual life skills that they'll have for a lifetime, and invaluable life skills that they'll have for a lifetime. Pardon me, I can't read. But I think that's an amazing point that Brennen brought up. And I think it's one of those points that, goes so overlooked is, this isn't just something to this isn't a daycare. This isn't a daycare where you just go there. It's not somewhere where you can just go hang out and just mess around. Like, you're going to learn life skills, whether you know it or not. And not in a negative way to where like you're going to learn this. Like, it's always a positive outcome. It's always a positive situation that you're gaining from After School Matters. And it's one of my favorite programs throughout the entire city. So with that being said, thank you to the All Sports All Plays Network. Thank you to After School Matters. Thank you to everybody who's tuned into the stream today and everybody who is a part of this. Truly means the world to me. With that being said, this is Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic and the All Sports All Plays Network. You are listening to the After School Matters charity event. Peace out.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.